of IEEE Bangalore Technology Conclave on the theme of Metaverse with a focus on AR, VR, XR, IoT, 5G, Web 3.0, AI, and blockchain. IEEE BTC 2022 is a flagship event of IEEE Bangalore Section organized in collaboration with Women in Engineering and Young Professionals Affinity Groups. In this track of Women in Engineering, we have technology leaders, innovators, entrepreneurs, and thought provokers who will share their thoughts on metaverse applications, ecosystems, and job opportunities. In our today's agenda, we will start with understanding about metaverse, XR for metaverse, digital twin technology, cybersecurity for metaverse, and finally conclude this track with panel discussion on our today's theme. I now request Mayur to introduce our first speaker for the day. Over to you, Mayur.
You are speaking on mute.
Thank you, ma'am. A very good morning to one and all.
We can't hear you and you need to move your slides.
Ma'am, is it fine now?
Yeah, all good.
Good morning, everybody. Today we have Mr. Sunil David, who is an IoT industry thought leader in India and has 28 years of experience in the IT and telecom industry. He served as the regional director India and Asian for AT&T India, where he was responsible for building the IoT strategy sales, business development, and building the AT and IoT partner ecosystem. Currently, he is serving as an advisor and consultant to AI and IoT startups that are aspiring for the next level of growth in the areas of smart and connected supply chains, sustainability, leveraging digital technology, connected manufacturing, cybersecurity. Mr. Sunil David is a recipient of 10 plus prestigious awards from various industry bodies and media conglomerates in recognition for his work in the areas of digital technology advocacy, digital skill initiatives, contributing his inputs towards IoT policy creation. Now I request Mr. Sunil David to address the session.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mayur, for that introduction. And firstly, I would like to thank IEEE Bangalore Section for inviting me to deliver this session. I'm going to attempt to demystify Metaverse for all of you. And good morning to all those who joined virtually. Okay, let me share my screen. Can you please stop sharing content so that I can share Mayur? I'm not able to.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I hope you all can see my screen.
Oh, yes, sir, we can see.
Can?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay. Right. So as I mentioned, I'm going to attempt to demystify Metaverse over the next 45 minutes. And in the course of the next 45 minutes, what I want to do is very quickly talk about the evolution of the Metaverse. What is Metaverse? Different definitions floating around. What are its characteristics? Take you all through some of the layers of the Metaverse. And in that topic, I'm going to cover about decentralization and Web 3.0 because that's very, very important in context of Metaverse. I'll talk about some use cases where industries are getting value from Metaverse. And then I'll finally end by talking about what is happening in India. What's the state of Metaverse here? What are brands doing, especially in the NFT space? And then I would conclude. Now, let me quickly talk about the history of Metaverse. Okay, so this is something which is not new. So way back in 1992, almost 30 years back, a well-known science fiction writer by name Neil Stephenson, he used the term metaverse and he wanted to take users into a different virtual space altogether. And he is the one who coined that term metaverse. And then later on, we started to see some developments. For example, Roblox, a well-known multiplayer gaming platform. They built a platform for users to share games, play games, and so on. 2009 is when Bitcoin, today one of the world's most successful cryptocurrency, and that's when the blockchain was also introduced. Bitcoin 2009, And then Decentraland, I think you may have heard of this. It's a metaverse platform, and that was first built in 2015. It's only now that we started to see a lot more use of this platform. Who would ever forget Pokemon Go, no? A game that was an AR game that kind of took the world by storm, right? So many were fascinated by how Pokemon Go really was picked up. And then later on, I just wanted to fast forward to 2021, when last year, when Facebook changed the name from Facebook to Meta. And in my view, the reason for that was that what Facebook observed was that the user engagement with the Facebook platform was coming down. The daily active users, that was coming down. And the whole monetization model of Facebook is to get more users on their platform. Of course, it depends a lot on ads. They depend a lot on monetizing content for creators on the Facebook platform. But when they found the user engagement coming down, that's when they decided that they must do something different. And how do they get user engagement back? What can they do to ensure that the experiences are a lot more immersive for users? And that was the thinking behind Facebook really wanting to change the name to Meta. And they've came up with the Reality Labs, which is investing in Metaverse. I think they budgeted almost $10 billion for that. And of course, Facebook also acquired a company called Oculus, which makes VR headsets. Now, the question is, what is Metaverse? So you can talk of Metaverse as an alternate universe, you can say, or an alternate world. It can be you can call it as a network of three-dimensional worlds. So Metaverse is essentially trying to merge the physical and the digital worlds seamlessly and giving you that sense of immersion. That is what the Metaverse is all about, right? And you're trying to use various hardware, you're using various platforms for doing that, right? So the objective is to make sure that users are able to embed and link immersive content, users to discover new experiences, to share their experiences, to create communities, also to a venue for activities, for collaboration, for learning, for training. So the whole objective is to try to build a lot more real-time interactivity. And it also wants to ensure that there is interoperability across platforms and devices, right? So that is what the Metaverse is all about. And I just wanted to quickly highlight some of the characteristics of Metaverse. Now, Metaverse is something which is endless, it's boundless. You can't switch off and switch on Metaverse. It is always on. So, and it is persistent. So users can come into the Metaverse and get out of the Metaverse. Okay, that's how it is. And as I mentioned, it is immersive, right? So the whole objective is to getting users into the Metaverse and having those immersive experiences by leveraging augmented reality, virtual reality, spatial computing, and so on. The other important characteristic of Metaverse is that it is decentralized, right? And I'm going to touch upon this in a little more detail as we get along. Now, while Metaverse is great for discovery, for creating new friends, experiences, the important dimension is also transacting on the Metaverse, and that's how the economic system has been set up. It is powered by blockchain platform, and you're using a lot of cryptocurrencies, digital currencies to really help the virtual economy, right? So you want creators to get a better bang for their buck. You want brands to engage with their end customers using Metaverse as a platform, but to create the transactions, you need an economic system. And it's all about social experiences. Now, I wanted to highlight 7 different layers of the Metaverse. And I'll take a few minutes to talk about each layer, but I'll spend a little more time on decentralization because that is very, very important in context of Metaverse and this whole Web 3.0 that you're hearing about today. It's not the same as Metaverse because Web 3.0 technologies really help the Metaverse to really do what it's supposed to do. Now, when you look at the experience layer, gaming experience, right? So today there are 3 billion gamers in the world. And I gave you the example of Roblox. Today they have about 55 million active users daily. And there are a lot of other gaming platforms which are really thriving on, on their platforms. Now, the whole gaming experience is going to be different. It's going to be in 3 dimensions. Immersive commerce, one example which comes to my mind is IKEA. They give you an option where using an AR app, you can actually feel as though you're in a home, and you can actually select a particular sofa set or a dining table. And the similar thing is followed by other e-commerce platforms as well, right? So this whole immersive commerce, where a product that you want to buy really comes alive, right? And this is in 2-dimensional. Imagine how it's going to be in 3-dimensional. It's going to be completely different. Collaboration, and here is an example of how Microsoft, they have this Teams platform. I think all of you all must have used this. This is a very good platform for enterprise collaboration. Now they've added features to that platform, and it's now called Mesh. And it's a platform where you can use to collaborate with employees, but one can also build digital avatars of themselves, and your avatars can actually be on that platform, right? So this is what Microsoft is doing. Real estate, and I think one can be in the comfort of Chennai and perhaps want to experience how a property in New York is looking like, right? And that is possible on Metaverse. Before, it helps the buying process, because supposing you want to buy some real estate, you would probably save some time first wanting to make those first 2 visits. You eventually might end up going there to buy it, but it will shorten the whole buying cycle, right? So you can actually feel as though you're in that place. You can experience that using virtual reality, and then you finally make a decision whether you want to buy that property or not, right? So it is really disrupting real estate. Your travel experiences, here is an example of a company called Matterport, which is trying to simulate how the Egyptian tombs would be on the metaverse. So before you actually physically go and visit the tombs, you get a simulation, you get a feeling of how it is going to be like, right? So travel is going to definitely change. So anything which is experiential is definitely going to get disrupted. Your learning and education, that's going to completely be changing with the use of metaverse. It's going to be a lot more fun, lot more interactive, lot more immersive for students to learn, because when anything is in graphical, when anything is in video format, anything which is in immersive content format, the learning experience is going to be much better. The ability to retain concepts is going to be much better, right? So, I mean, just example of the Egyptian tomb, instead of reading about it, if you actually feel how you are inside the tomb, you will be able to capture and retain so much of that information, right? So learning is going to be a lot more engaging, a lot more easier. Fitness, again, one can actually use VR headsets, one can interact with other people on the metaverse. So you're blending the physical and the digital. It's not trying to replace the physical, but you're trying to digitize your human experiences. Live music concerts, Fortnite conducts quite a few musical concerts, so one can actually get into a metaverse and be in a virtual music concert, so to speak, right? So this whole experience is changing. The other important layer of metaverse is the discovery phase, and here you are wanting to discover what your friends are doing in the metaverse. You're building content. There's a lot of community-driven content that is built on metaverse. And a good example of discovery is this app called Clubhouse. You may probably be using this. It's an app which is both available on Android as well as on iOS, where one can actually get into an audio app and one can actually converse. You can, on any topic that you like, and you discover new friends. You can choose what topic you want, and so on. Blizzard is another example of a place for discovery. This is a very good gaming platform. In fact, Microsoft had acquired Blizzard for about $69 billion last year. It's not yet through. The transaction is not yet through, but they really want to play big in the space, right? So Metaverse is also a place for discovery. Now here, I wanted to highlight how Metaverse is really going to give the creators a better bang for their buck, right? So customers today are not just content creators, but they are also content amplifiers, right? So if you're able to amplify the content that you're creating, the monetization opportunities are a lot more, right? And one important thing is that content is not just generated by people who generate it, but it also emerges from all the interactions that they have with others in the community, right? So it kind of feeds into the substance of all the other conversations which are happening. Now, if you just look at how the creator economy has evolved, way back in the 90s, the word weblog was coined, right? People used to write blogs, and some of them used to get paid for it. And it was only in 2005, after YouTube was launched, and 2 years later, when they announced a program where creators could monetize their content, that's when you found creators really getting a lot more opportunities to monetize all the creativity, all the content that they built, right? And thereafter, we found TikTok. I think TikTok also played a big part, especially short video formats. They kind of came up with their platform. Reels is a very good platform from Instagram, short videos that you can have 30 seconds. And it was in 2019 that the word influencer, no? Today we use the word influencer economy, right? A lot of brands today use influencers, micro influencers, people whom you may not even have known, people who have a good following on YouTube, on Twitter, on Instagram, and they are adding a lot of value to the brands. And for the brands also, it is a much cost-effective platform to get these influencers to go and talk about their products, as opposed to always trying to get all the celebrities, right? So the influencer economy has been taken off. In fact, as I mentioned, it was added to the Oxford Dictionary in 2019, right? So now there's a lot more democratization as far as the creator era is concerned, a lot more platforms that are now available for the creators to get monetized for their content. Now, having talked about the discovery layer, the third layer is the spatial computing, and this is if you have to define spatial computing, it is what you're trying to do is you're integrating traditional computing. Your traditional computing is your data and your logic with the three-dimensional part, the 3D location, and what you want to do is to develop user interfaces that can be rendered in 3D, right? And you're using various components. You're using IoT, you're using biometrics from people, AR, VR, and so on, right? So you're trying to have 3D engines that will display geometry animation. So Unity and Unreal are examples of companies who are building 3D engines, right? So it's data plus the three-dimensional world. And the whole experience for the users in three-dimensional is definitely going to be a lot more better, right? So spatial computing will play a part in that. Now here I wanted to spend some time on decentralization, because this is a very, very important attribute or a characteristic of Metaverse. And as I started by saying that, Metaverse is not Web 3.0, right? So if you just see how Web 3.0 has evolved, we started with Web 1.0, which is static content. People could not create it. And then Web 2.0 is really when people could create web pages, get monetized, and that's when your social networks evolved. Cloud was adoption picked up, and we kind of moved into a mobile first kind of an era. Now Web 3.0 is going to be a lot more different, right? So Web 3.0 is going to be completely decentralized, right? Unlike Web 2.0, which is still on, where you have big platforms who are really getting a lot more benefited from it, like all the FANG companies. They have really monetized the data that we all have generated, right? So Web 3.0 is that way going to be different. It's going to be a lot more decentralized. When I say decentralized, it is not going to be owned by one single authority. It's going to be users can own and control the content and assets they create. Today, when you create content and when those content is posted on platforms, the big guys are actually taking advantage of that. In Web 3.0, you would have better control of that, right? And the assets that you're creating, you would have better control. And then you're using a lot of technology in Web 3.0, right? So you're using, for example, blockchain. I'll talk about it a little later. Blockchain is the underlying platform on which you're running all your transactions. Your data is stored on a blockchain. Then I'm going to talk about NFTs and decentralized finance a little later. But Web 3.0, some of the technologies are the ones which are powering the metaverse, right? So the 3 or 4 areas which I just quickly wanted to touch upon, since the topic is about demystifying metaverse, at a very high level, I just wanted to share what these 4 terms mean, okay? I'm going to start with blockchain, and blockchain is something which is not new, right? So 2009 is when Bitcoin was launched, but blockchain was launched a year earlier. And blockchain is a network of computing nodes that are distributed across the world, right? And it's only in the last couple of years, last 3 years, that we started to see adoption of blockchain pick up a little bit. It's still not mainstream yet. It will take a while before we see a larger adoption of blockchain, but it's thanks to Metaverse and the economic system that needs to really be used. Blockchain will play a huge part in that. And what are the features of blockchain and the benefits of blockchain? As I mentioned, it's completely decentralized. The data is stored across multiple nodes. Your transaction cost is going to be much, much lower on blockchain. Your data is going to be a lot more secure, because once a transaction is recorded on blockchain, you can't tamper with the data, right? So it is that way very, very secure. It is a lot more open. And the reason why they called it blockchain is because all these blocks, as you see in the picture, they're all connected through a chain of blocks. So that's why it's called blockchain. And when you have data on a particular block, it has what is called as a hash. If you see in the picture here, it's a hash is derived from a mathematical computing function. And the next block, which has data, would have the previous hash, and so on and so forth, right? So somebody is trying to tamper with block 2. He won't be able to tamper with that data. If he attempts to tamper with the data, he will not be able to be successful, because the previous hash is also there in block 2. And the same concept applies for block 3 and all that. So it is immutable. Once a transaction is done on blockchain, you can't change the transaction unless you have more than 50% of users agree to it. And it may not be easy to do that, right? So faster transactions is possible on blockchain, much lower cost, very, very distributed, very flexible. And blockchain today, we're finding a lot of applications for blockchain. For example, agricultural records. Today it's easy to tamper with land titles and sale deeds and all that. Once you have that on a blockchain, your ownership of that is digitized. And once it's on blockchain, you can't tamper with it, right? Health records can be on a blockchain. Especially in supply chain, when you're having multiple stakeholders, right? A buyer, supplier, logistics provider, so many players are there in that whole ecosystem. You can actually have all those transactions running on a blockchain, right? So you can't actually tamper with any of those transactions. Now, having talked about blockchain, let me talk about tokens. And token is nothing but an asset that can be transferable digitally between two people, right? And that is running on a blockchain today. So, for example, Bitcoin is a good example of a cryptocurrency. It's a token, right? So Bitcoins are all currencies that are used. Ether is another currency that is used. Dogcoin, there are a lot of these currencies that are used. There are decentralized finance tokens that are used today. And what I mean by decentralized finance is that any transaction which is happening does not need to go to an intermediary. It can be peer-to-peer, right? So that is very much possible. And so you can have these tokens for decentralized financing, right? So your lending, saving, insurance, trading, all of them can be good applications. And then non-fungible tokens. I think you would have all heard of this term, and I have a couple of slides talking about this. How one can represent, the ownership rights to a digital asset. So a physical asset can be converted into a very unique digital asset, and I'll share about NFT here. So while Bitcoin today is, all Bitcoins are identical, right? In case of non-fungible tokens, each token is unique. And a good example of that is like a plane ticket, right? So your plane ticket, all your plane tickets look alike, right? But each plane ticket has got a particular seat number, right? So from that perspective, it is because it's a different seat allocated to each one, right? So that way it's different. So just wanted to give you that analogy, like how NFTs are like plane tickets. But today, non-fungible tokens are widely being used. Brands are actually using NFTs to create communities and to engage with their end customers, right? So, and NFTs can be a piece of music, it can be video, it can be a piece of art. In fact, 2 or 3 years back, a particular piece of art was sold for some $60 million. People Chase is the name of that piece of art, if I'm not mistaken. But there's a lot of value assigned to NFT, right? And NFTs, once it's a digital asset, it can be tradable, it can be stored safely, running on a blockchain platform. Today, you're using Ethereum blockchain for that. And Ether is the currency that you're using for transaction. right? So how does the NFT work? So for example, if you have an artist who's created a product, now today if somebody creates a piece of art, somebody can copy that, right? It is very much possible. Frauds are very common today, right? Fake art is created and the artist actually doesn't get his full due for that. Now today what is possible is, thanks to NFT technology, an artist can create a product, and then what he can do is he can open a crypto wallet, and then he can have his piece of art on the marketplace. There are a lot of these NFT marketplaces. So this NFT can be on the marketplace, and he can, then pay some marketplace fees for that. And that piece of art is minted in a digital format. It's digital object minted, and it's been assigned a unique digital token, and that's the NFT. Okay, so and that is running on the Ethereum blockchain. Now, supposing a buyer wants to buy that digital art, that NFT of that particular artist, all he has to do is he has to go to that marketplace, and he's actually using cryptocurrency to buy that NFT. And he knows that that piece of art is unique because the whole historical ownership data of that piece of art is all attached on the blockchain, right? So typically this is how NFTs work. And there are a number of NFT marketplaces that are there today. So you have art marketplaces, utility marketplaces. A good example of a marketplace is Decentraland. The other concept which I wanted to share is about smart contracts, and very simple definition of smart contracts. These are self-executing contracts, which has the terms of the agreement. So, for example, a buyer and a seller are there. There are a certain set of terms and conditions that the buyer and seller have to agree to, right? So the self-executing contract with the terms of the agreement between the buyer and seller, that's directly written into the lines of code. So that is all codified in a program, and that is running on blockchain, right? So the moment the terms and conditions are met, it automatically gets executed, right? And it is irreversible, right? So that's why smart contracts are that way very good, because today one can always interpret contracts differently. Some might later on say that they interpret it in a different way. All that is eliminated when you look at smart contracts, and you really don't need intermediaries for getting involved between the buyer and the seller, right? Because the code in which the contract has been executed into, that is defining the mechanism of the transaction, right? And how does it work? So again, I wanted to give you an example here. So one can have a piece of land that is digitized. Then if you want that land to be sold, then you probably need to get the help of an exchange. And you can actually automate the whole clearing and settlement process, because every aspect related to that land, be it its history, all that is all on the blockchain, and the ownership is undisputed. There's no question about having any issues about that. And then you're using bitcoins or any other cryptocurrencies to transact. And then somebody who wants to buy that house, he would then go to that exchange, the contract that is agreed upon, and that's when the smart contract comes into play, where all the terms and conditions are clearly defined, and that would get executed. And then the buyer of that property would then receive his assets after he makes the payment. So this is how smart contracts work. So I've covered a few layers now, and I just want to talk about some of the human interfaces that would play a part when you talk about Metaverse. Now, today we're using virtual reality headsets. The cost of that is still on the higher side. That needs to come down for Metaverse to get a lot more democratized. We're using smart glasses like Microsoft HoloLenses. The real democratization of Metaverse will come when we are able to use your standard smartphones and your PCs and your laptops to get into the Metaverse, right? That's when the true democratization would happen, because today AR headsets are not affordable. Barely 11 million headsets sold globally last year in a population of 7 billion. It's just not good enough, right? So you really need headset cost to come down, and that will drive adoption. But when you really are able to have phones, affordable smartphones, which are able to run AR apps on it, and you're using that as a means to interface with Metaverse, that's when we'll probably see a lot more adoption pick up. Having covered about this piece, about the human interface in metaverse, one very important aspect is the infrastructure piece, right? Because all these metaverse applications need to run on very powerful computing infrastructure, right? So today the chips that are used in computing infrastructure, they are getting faster. They're a lot more denser. When I say denser, a lot more transistors can be packed into a chip today. So we are using distributed cloud. We're using edge computing today. So for example, if you want to process data faster, closer to where it is getting generated from, you're going to use an edge device, an edge gateway, or an edge platform, so to speak, right? So computing infrastructure, yes, needs to be a lot more powerful, and this will only increase going forward. But having good computing infrastructure is not good enough. One also needs very good, powerful networks, right? So you would have read just about a month back, India, we announced launch of 5G services, and 5G services today will play a huge part when you want to access the metaverse, because if you want immersive experiences, your latency, that latency has to be less than 10 milliseconds. Only then one can really experience the metaverse really well, right? So your latency, 5G characteristics are less than 10 millisecond latency, very, very reliable. So with 5G, it's 99.59 reliability. So you can really support very good latency sensitive apps. So today one can do remote surgery through a 5G network. One can do, for example, digital twin. I'm going to talk about it a little later. Using digital twins through a 5G network, one can then send data faster from a physical asset and build it into a digital twin model. But 5G will be like a gateway or an infrastructure that will power all this faster. 5G will result in massive IoT connectivity, because 5G has got a very important characteristics, and that is massive machine type communication and very high connection density, where in a 1 square kilometer radius, you can have almost 1 million devices connected. And one big advantage of 5G is the speeds are much faster. So today you would probably be experiencing 40 to 70 Mbps speed in case of 5G, in case of 4G. In case of 5G, it will be from anywhere from 400 Mbps, can even go up to 5 gigabits per second or 10 gigabits per second, depending upon the frequency band that you use. If you're using a higher frequency band, then your speeds are going to be much higher. But 5G will be at least 10 times faster than 4G. So the moment you talk about faster speeds, lower latency, imagine the kind of applications that would be possible, right? Your entertainment experience, your gaming experience is going to completely be different. Just having covered all the 7 layers, I just wanted to put this whole metaverse market map for you, right? So I talked about the experience layer, where there are a lot of players playing in that space, including companies like Facebook, YouTube, Fortnite, and so on. Then you have the discovery layer, where you have, like a Google, Facebook, where you're discovering new friends and experiences. The creator economy, I told you, Unity is a good example of that. They are building gaming engines, Roblox, Epic, Microsoft themselves. We are trying to build the platforms for users to really monetize their content. I covered a little bit about spatial computing, how companies are trying to play. Matterport is a very good example. They're very strong in geospatial, right? As I mentioned, it's the data logic plus the 3-dimension when you add it, and we're trying to render in 3-dimensional experience. It's going to be different. Decentralization, the human interface and the infrastructure. And here you have the cloud providers who will be playing a part, the telecom providers will be playing a part. Now, having covered the layers, let's look at how metaverse is impacting industry. And I hope you'll find this interesting, but I wanted to give an example of auto industry today. In the auto industry, you have people wanting to collaborate right from the design of the car, right? People might be anywhere in the world. And when you're doing that on a metaverse, the experience is going to be different. So you can design things, you can simulate autonomous vehicles on the metaverse, right? And you can have virtual showrooms. And I think that is also going to help a long way in terms of reducing the buying cycle, because today somebody wants to buy a car, he might probably do a lot of research on the internet, read up a few magazines, check with friends which are good models and all that stuff. And then of course he wants to go to the dealer shop and check out the car and then do a test drive. So one can actually cut short that whole cycle, because today you have auto OEMs who are building virtual showrooms where one can get into a vehicle using a virtual reality headset, and one can feel that they are inside that vehicle. right? So that experience is going to be different. Now, digital twin in three-dimensional, because digital twins have always existed. We didn't see the proliferation of digital twins yet, but simple definition of digital twin is it's a virtual representation of a it's a virtual representation of a physical asset. Okay, so it would represent a unique physical asset. What is different from simulation? In simulation, you're simulating a particular physical asset using CAD/CAM. But in digital twin, what you're doing is you're constantly feeding the digital twin with data coming from the physical world, right? So, for example, if you're building a digital twin of an engine, after you have built a 3D model of that engine, the physical attributes of that engine as it is running on the field, that data is constantly going into the digital twin model. And by doing that, you can do what if scenarios. What if temperature goes up? What will happen? Right? So you can do a lot more optimization. You're also able to have a lot more predictability. Okay, if temperature goes up, if vibration of that is today it's a little high. If it goes beyond a threshold, it might even lead to an engine failure. So you can actually simulate all that in a digital twin and you can take action immediately. Right? So this is a very good example of how one can leverage a three-dimensional digital twin in context of Metaverse. So very useful in manufacturing. For example, you can build digital twins of your machines. You can build digital twin of a supply chain, of a process or a system. I understand there's going to be a talk on digital twins, so I won't elaborate further, but this is one very good use case. Now, coming to what is happening in India, Tanishq, well-known brand from the Tata Group, a few months back, they launched their wedding collection called Riva on the Metaverse. And incidentally, about 6 or 7 months back in our very own state, Tamil Nadu, a couple who got married, they had their wedding reception on the Metaverse. Okay, you can probably read it up, but they had a startup who helped them build, digital avatars of all the guests, including the bridegroom, the bride, and I think the bride or the bridegroom's father passed away 3 years back. And one of them is very particular that they built a digital avatar of the father so that he can also be present for the reception, right? So Mahindra and Mahindra, they launched their Thar vehicles a couple of years, the new version of that, and they are able to sell NFTs of the Thar for 26 lakhs. Now, it is not an original Thar, it is an NFT, but the whole objective of Mahindra and Mahindra is by getting these NFTs built, users buy these NFTs and they want to build communities so that they can engage with the brand better, right? And then those who buy these NFTs are given some special privileges and so on, right? So they fetched about 26 lakhs. Make My Trip, well-known portal for travel, they sold NFTs. MG Motors, again, another large brand in the automotive space. They had some of the pictures of their old vintage vehicles and they've converted that into an NFT and they had buyers who bought it and they are building those communities. And NFT, unless it has some value, it doesn't make sense, right? NFT has to have some value because at some point in time when the value increases, you'd be able to sell it, right? We don't want to store NFTs permanently, right? So the value as it goes up, then obviously the monetization opportunity is more for you. Other brands in India that are leveraging Metaverse, I talked about Tanishq, Coca-Cola, they had a wedding on a platform called Yug, which is a Metaverse platform. And ITC also used the same Yug platform to promote its brand. Tata Consumer Products, again, well-known brand. Holi is a festival very well celebrated in north of India, to a certain extent in the west. But they hosted that Holi party in early this March on Yug Metaverse, right? And they had their customers coming on. Seat, a well-known brand in the tire side, part of the RPG group, they're building a virtual tire shop and they are integrating that with their e-commerce platform. So somebody can, buyer of a tire can actually go into that virtual tire shop, see what tires he wants, which will fit into his vehicle. And then the tires can get delivered offline to him, right? So very early days when it comes to Indian brands trying to leverage Metaverse. Yashoda Hospital, one of the top hospitals in India, Hyderabad based, they became the first healthcare group to establish a presence on the Metaverse platform. Okay, they bought a land, virtual land on Decentraland. I spoke about it. It's a well-known marketplace of Metaverse marketplace, and they are trying to build a kind of an experience zone and have their customers now also on this, right? So healthcare, it's a topic in itself, but a lot of opportunities can be used when you talk about healthcare. For example, in case of training and development, in fact, even surgeries. If you have a surgeon who's on the operating theater and he needs help from a specialist who might be thousands of miles away, they can actually get help using a metaverse platform where you can get step-by-step instruction in terms of how they can actually work and make sure that the surgery is successful, right? Some of the Indian brands that are playing in metaverse, quite a few of them. NetMeet is one of them. Bollywood, they created something specifically targeting for Bollywood. A company called OneRare has created a Foodverse, Zippy, and I've also interacted with quite a few metaverse startups over the last 5 to 6 months. Some of them are very focused on Web 3.0. They are essentially Web 3.0 startups, right? And what is also heartening to see is that many large Indian technology service companies like an Infosys, Wipro, HCL, Tech Mahindra, all of them have built metaverse practices. Okay, so even Accenture for that matter. In fact, Accenture, not an Indian company, but they recruited 1,000 odd employees on their metaverse about 7-8 months back, right? So the whole onboarding happened on the metaverse. So avatars of those persons were there interacting with the Accenture folks. Some brands are, especially in a time when attrition is very, very high, after somebody signs up an appointment letter, it might take a couple of months for them to join the company. But in those 2 months, brands are constantly in touch with that employee, just telling them about the company, building a metaverse platform so they can start engaging with them even before they join, right? So a lot of things that are being used like that. But interesting that tech service companies are now seeing an opportunity in the space. They're building foundries or practices which are testing out use cases and collaborating, because metaverse is very multidisciplinary, right? It is coming together of multiple technology, right? IoT, AI, data, blockchain, AR, VR, and hence they are testing out a lot of these use cases. I just want to conclude by sharing a few points here. First thing is, for any organization, I think the first and foremost thing is to identify what your use cases. You need to have a very focused strategy as to why do you want to leverage metaverse. That's number one. Second is, it's always going to be evolving, right? Use cases will evolve. So one needs to test, learn, and adopt, right? And it will take a few years, perhaps 4 or 5 years maybe, to see really use case evolve even more and to see a lot more democratization of metaverse. And then the next thing is to scale, right? Now, there are challenges. I'm not saying it's all hunky-dory, it's great platform, great experience, all that. There are challenges. For example, cybersecurity is a challenge, and that's going to be addressed. Data security and privacy, that's going to be an issue that needs to be. Digital identity, somebody can steal a digital identity. It may not be so easy, but still, that's very much a possibility, right? So one needs to be balanced. See, I'm not trying to say metaverse will replace physical. Metaverse will work in conjunction with the physical. It is only going to augment your human experiences digitally better. That's why Gartner have coined the term called digital human. Instead of using a digital avatar, right? So one has to be very balanced, right? Because if you spend too much of time on metaverse, then you'll be cut off from the physical world, right? So I think balance and moderation, especially for the Gen Zs, the youngsters, they have to be careful. It will take some time for democratization. A lot of advancements are happening in the technology space. It is creating a lot of opportunities for employment. And a lot of these startups, in fact, Web 3.0 alone, there are more than 450 startups in India. A lot of them are getting funding also, right? Because the VCs, the PEs are seeing a lot of opportunities in this space, right? So, because there are so many technologies being used, right? It's so multidisciplinary that it's throwing open so many opportunities. Like within blockchain, you need specialists, cloud, 5G, and so on. And then, finally, I just want to share that, cost of technology is only going to come down, right? Chips are getting short, smaller. The cost of hardware will come down. AR, VR headsets, if that comes down, that will democratize metaverse even more. But as the cost of technology comes down, as use cases evolve, then we'll see a lot more organizations really taking advantage of the metaverse. So that's in a nutshell what I wanted to cover. Very quickly, 4 blocks. It's all about content and experiences. It's about using platforms such as gaming is one of them. It's having the right infrastructure and hardware. And then, of course, you have the enablers, right? So the payment mechanisms which I spoke about, identity, and so on, right? So I just hope that I've been able to give some justice in this 45 minutes to demystify metaverse, because this is a topic that can take a lot of time, but I tried my best to kind of cover so much in about 45 minutes. So with that, I end my presentation, and I'm happy to take questions.
Yeah. Thanks, Sunil. So we see a couple of questions audience have put in the chat window. Maybe I'll read out few. Like, what is the valuation of metaverse in content creation industry?
You can't define valuation for that, Supriya. So the value of content varies from, the content creator. There are so many content creators, right? So the value of the content is, it depends on how do you, what kind of value that you see in that specific content. It's very difficult to quantify it right now. You can't. It varies, from individual to individual. I don't know whether that question was asked from a consumer standpoint. Is it for users who build content, how they are trying to get better value for the content, or are you talking about it from an enterprise standpoint? So I didn't get that question, but the value of the content will come if somebody sees, and again, it varies. One might see the content really good. Somebody else might probably not see it, assign that same value. It might vary from individual to individual. So
yeah. I think that's nice. Maybe we'll take one more question. I think we are top of the hour. So, what are the current challenges that you see in adopting metaverse, particularly with different privacy policies around storing and using user data?
So today it's very early days yet, and especially when you talk about data security and privacy today, thanks to blockchain, that you can have your digital identity on that blockchain. So tampering with the digital identity is and the data that is there on blockchain is not easily altered. You can't change that. So that way, blockchain is a very powerful platform. So that would give you a lot of security in that sense. But not that it can't be tampered with or identity can't be stolen. But it would mean a very holistic approach when it comes to security. Okay, proper access controls, because you're using hardware to get into the metaverse. So proper access controls, data security, cloud security, network security. So all of this together has to play out. When you use the right, combination of all this and security at every layer, then you can minimize the risk. You can minimize tampering of the data. You can't eliminate it because nobody can say that they're 100% secure. But you can use a combination of all securities, network, data, access controls, hardware, all that together. That would definitely play a part.
Yeah. So, Sunil, we have a lot of questions here in the chat, but I guess considering the time, maybe we would just take one more question and move on to the next. So, one question from Miss Soma Pandey is like, what is the role of IoT in metaverse?
That's a good example of IoT in metaverse is the digital twin, because when you're trying to create a virtual representation of a physical asset, you got to first sensorize that asset, right? So you attach sensors to those assets, and you're getting all the physical data from that asset through a network. You're putting it into an AI model, and all the data is in the AI model, right? And then you're building that digital twin, right? And this is constantly, physical data is constantly coming into that AI model. So that's where your IoT would come in. So IoT and digital twin can apply to pretty much every industry. I gave the example of manufacturing. It can be in retail. It can be supply chain. One can even build a digital twin of a human heart. okay, and then simulate how the human heart would work, and then helps doctors to diagnose properly, give the right treatment, and so on, right? So IoT application metaverse, largely digital twins. I don't know who asked that question, but that's what I would say.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Mr. Sunil. Thanks for the wonderful talk. I'll hand over the session to Mayur to facilitate the speaker.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Mayur, you might be speaking on mute.
Thank you very much, sir. I would like to extend my warm welcome, warm thank you from Bangalore Technological Conclave and IEEE Bangalore Section and IEEE Young Professional Bangalore Section. Now we shall head over to our next talk, our second talk, that is XR for the Metaverse. I would like to introduce our speaker, Mr. Prashant Mishra. Prashant Mishra, sir, is the founder and CEO of Tech XR Innovations Private Limited. Prashant Mishra is a technology entrepreneur and an ex-Indian Revenue Service Officer. He is an entrepreneur who is also successfully developed the world's most affordable controller to interact with AR and VR space with 6 degrees of freedom, which can do almost anything on a smartphone, and has now emerged as a game changer in the fields of education, training, gaming, and democratization of 3D content generation. As a mentor and founder of TechXR Innovations Private Limited, he democratizes access to emerging technologies. His organization, TechXR, is the fastest growing startup based out of Bhopal and Gurugram, providing hardware and software solutions in AR and VR learning and content generation field. Devised a patented product, SenseXR controller, which works as a 3D mouse in the VR world. Apart from the hardware, its associated drivers, SDK, and allied software, his team initiative is to make India AR and VR ready. His team launched specially designed AR VR courses for school students as well as undergrads in the collaboration with iHub IIT Roorkee at affordable prices for easy access to the Indian youth. Designed AR VR elective course for NIFT and also served as a guest faculty. Designed AR VR internship for RGPV and trained students from 20 plus institutes. Now I request Prashant Mishra sir to take over the session.
Thanks Mayur. Thanks IEEE for inviting me. I am just about to share my screen and start my presentation. Yes. So it's a very good topic for me to cover, because particularly if we talk about in India, there is not so much awareness, and XR and Metaverse, sometimes they are referred as the same thing. So that's why this distinction is very much important. Very first thing is that, can you please confirm if I'm audible and the screen is visible?
Yeah, we can see you as well, and we can see the slides. Yeah.
Okay. So I would in this presentation and this session, I would like to cover a brief on XR, and then about the metaverse, and then what are the challenges for India, and then how what kind of strategy we can form and we should devise. So starting with XR, so XR in general stands for extended reality. It's an umbrella term that covers augmented reality, virtual reality, and mixed reality. So when we talk about augmented reality, that is about putting digital content like 3D models, animation, videos on the top of our real world, where we capture the real world through a camera. We see the real world on some screen, and that's how we can actually experience our this augmented reality applications. Then when we talk about virtual reality, so virtual reality is a technology where we replace our real world with totally immersive virtual world. And for that also we need some devices and some interactive tools. We can see here the user in the virtual reality and playing a game. And then when we talk about mixed reality, so mixed reality is basically a blend of these two worlds, where the digital model and the physical world, they are seamlessly integrated. And I would be showing you some video, because it's when we talk about AR and VR, it's very difficult to explain by words until unless we do not see it and we do not experience it. It's very difficult to understand. So in the mixed reality scenario, the experience is immersive as well as the content is laid over on the physical world as if it becomes a part of the physical world. So that is the transition between AR and immersive AR and VR. So what is immersive nature? I would also be completing. So, like in mathematics, whatever the variable we talk about, we start with let assume it's X. So similarly here, it's augmented reality, virtual reality, and mixed reality. So basically it's AR, VR, MR. So AVM are generally replaced by XR. So XR is the total umbrella of the all comprising all these technologies. Now, if we talk about augmented reality, this video would give us an example that how the world is adopting these technologies. So this is one of the example where we can see the user is holding a smartphone. So I am trying to create a distinction between immersive technology and handheld mode augmented reality. So here user is holding these devices in their hands and they can roam around these spaces because the digital content has been laid over the physical world. So what is happening? The user has actually entered inside the room. He is visiting the space. The 3D content is mapped with the physical dimensions also. So what is happening here? He can also see the real world and digital content, and that's how. But this particular experience, they are having it on smartphone screen or tablet. So this is called handheld mode augmented reality. Now, this particular example would actually tell us what is virtual reality. So in virtual reality, we can consider a user inside totally immersive, a 3D environment, a virtual environment, as if he has become part of that 3D world. And also such kind of tools where these tools devices held in the hand are called controllers. So they can interact with virtual reality with 6 degrees of freedom interaction. This 6-DoF interaction basically allows user to drag and drop these 3D content across the X, Y, Z direction also, and allows to rotate along all these dimensions. So that's why the interaction is called 6-DoF. 3 translational freedoms, 3 rotational freedoms. And because of this interaction, this helps user to, we move in our space, the physical space, with 6 degrees of freedom manner. So in virtual reality, if we have such kind of freedom, our muscle memory gets trained. So these particular technologies are very, very important while we are imparting training, particularly for dangerous industries. And these are a few educational use cases where students can learn. This is the application developed by University of Colorado students, and also gaming. So gaming is also taken to the next level because users become the part of that 3D world. So when we play normally games on smartphone screen or a tablet, so that is a very small portion. But when you become the part of this 3D world, the level of immersion is totally taken to different level. So whenever the user is wearing these headset kind of devices and actually ported inside that virtual world, this particular experience we call immersive experiences. So this is one of the example of metaverse. I would also be covering this metaverse in the coming slides. So this is all about virtual reality. And now, when we talk about mixed reality, so mixed reality is somewhat in between with these augmented reality and mixed reality, where we can see the user is actually wearing a device which is transparent, and the digital content is actually becoming the part of the real world. So here we can see there is a proper room, and this room is not a virtual room. He is actually standing inside his own room, but virtual content is now become the part of that 3D content, has become the part of the real room. So basically such kind of devices have lidar scanner, those 3D scanning sensors, so they understand the topography, the physical geometry of the physical space. And when a mesh is created, a 3D data points is created, and then that 3D data point is mapped with these physical spaces, and then this virtual content is placed all over the physical object. So if you move around the space, you can actually see those digital content to be there where they are planned. So this kind of actually experiences allow users to collaborate in a very immersive manner. Um, I think there's some issue. I would be skipping this. Yeah. So now we talk about Metaverse. So what is Metaverse? So Metaverse is about next evolution in social connection and the success to the mobile internet from 2D to 3D space. When we talk about social connections, we have these social media sites. Particularly, we talk about Facebook, or let's say we are connecting with these Zoom calls or these kind of meetings where we are on a same platform, but we are experience this data in a 2D screen. For example, when we scroll through our Facebook pages, that is through either web-based solution on desktop, a flat desktop, or maybe on a smartphone. But when we can actually port that experience into the 3D world, where we can also see a digital replica of an individual, which is sometimes called avatar. So that digital replica, who can also they can also move around that 3D space, that kind of social gathering space we can conceive as metaverse. So in short, metaverse can be considered to be internet of a 3D meeting spaces. That is, I will not go into too much technical details, but I would be just summarizing it so that in a layman terms, we can understand that what is Metaverse. So Metaverse is a common meeting platform where we can experience we can collaborate and we can meet different people. We can we can play games with our friends or maybe with different stakeholders at the same digital space, but in 3D manner. So that is the summary of the metaverse. So now we have a few, when we talk about 3D spaces, 3D content. So how to access metaverse? What are those technological solutions which we can actually talk about in terms of that? What are those solutions where we can reach these metaverse solutions? So for example, mobile phone and tablets, that is one of the example through which we can actually connect with our friends or maybe access these metaverse applications. Second, desktop and laptops. So we can have those 3D websites where we can roam around by just pressing the keyboard arrows or by clicking at different points where users' avatars are walking. You can actually see which user is standing where. So in that way, you would be having a greater feeling of connectivity. So that is another device. Then there are VR headsets. So those are basically head-mounted devices. So when we talk about head-mounted devices, those are the devices which you can wear around your head. So we have a greater field of view and a depth perception also. So I would be giving these examples like, let me check. I think there is some issue with the connectivity. Yeah.
Hey, this is David from Niantic, and this is Codename Neon.
So this is one of the example. Can you please confirm if you're able to see my screen because there's certain issues?
Yeah, we can see. We can see.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. So what is happening here? This is the example of AR metaverse, which is being experienced on a smartphone. The users, they are playing with each other, holding this smartphone in their hand. So metaverse in handheld mode, the augmented reality enabled metaverse. Normally, augmented reality has become synonym of handheld mode augmented reality. So whenever we hear augmented reality, that can be taken as we are experiencing AR on handheld mode. Whenever you wear some device, it becomes mixed reality kind of thing. So we can see we can also call this is a demo of metaverse in AR. So our purpose is to understand that what kind of metaverse can be created across augmented reality, virtual reality, and mixed reality, and what kind of devices we require. So this is one of the example where the gaming, there's a solution by Niantic And this is the gaming solution which is being preferred. So this is the gaming metaverse we can call. So now this is a virtual reality
to the workspace of the future.
This is metaverse in VR, right? So these are experienced on high-end headsets. I gave you one of the example in the virtual reality video where the user was hearing a VR headset, and they have two controllers. Sometimes these headsets are also enabled with hand tracking features. So what is happening here in a virtual reality, users are coming from different spaces and they can actually see digital replica or digital twin or avatars of their friends or their collaborators or different stakeholders. So what problem it's solving? It's basically connecting people across the space, giving them the quality of interaction the way we interact in our physical world. So this is very much useful for workspace solutions where clients are requiring some services. So those services can be delivered in effective manner. Your teams can collaborate from across the globe, and particularly COVID. During the COVID time, the physical office kind of got it very difficult to reach offices. So such kind of tools proved to be a very productive tools where the team could connect and they can create lots of designs in collaborative manner. They can discuss. In fact, Accenture is said to be, they have purchased thousands of devices, and they have that meeting every day meeting or every week weekly meetings in these metaverse spaces only. So this is the virtual reality space, but again, we would require one headset. And as a previous speaker has identified that such kind of devices are costly. So that's why its mass adoption right now is difficult. But definitely enterprise are adopting these technologies because these are more beneficial for the time being for enterprises. So now, yeah. So when we talk about metaverse should be affordable, and particularly like India. So in Indian concept, this is one of the video which we recorded a long time back. This is the example of metaverse on a smartphone. So this particular immersive experience has been captured by putting a smartphone on this VR headset, which I am showing in my video. So this is nothing but Google Cardboard like device, and you just put your smartphone inside this VR headset, and you can dive into virtual reality. But the virtual reality has been non-interactive so far. So we have come up with this controller which actually allows users to interact with these digital contents in 6 degrees of freedom. So they can collaborate the way it's possible on high-end devices also. So this these hands, these are basically nothing but our controllers position and rotation, and now users are discussing. So this is one of the demo of metaverse on a smartphone. So far this has yet not been picked up pace, because on a smartphone the controller or such kind of switched off interaction was not possible. So we are trying to filling that gap so that we can democratize this technology. So in virtual reality, so far I have covered metaverse in augmented reality, metaverse in virtual reality. For virtual reality, we have two modes. First is high-end devices. Second one is smartphone-based metaverse, where we can simply have these $10 or $5 VR headset where we can put our smartphone. And particularly when talk about 5G, so 5G is going to revolutionize the way we use our data, because it will give a lot of data connectivity. So even a normal smartphone can, where the computation we can have it on server. So even a low capacity smartphone can render a good quality virtual reality experiences. So that's why in the 5G regime, these smartphones are going to be, a very, very useful when we talk about these AR and VR applications. So when we talk about metaverse should be affordable. When we talk about India, we will have to bring something around a smartphone. That's what our previous speaker also pointed out, that in order to take metaverse to the masses, we have to build something around the smartphone. These are going to stay for long. So that was the metaverse in virtual reality. Now, this is the metaverse for the mixed reality. So this particular video will actually give us an idea that what exactly mixed reality is, So here we can see this is the device which this user is wearing. This is a HoloLens. This is a transparent panel. On these panel for both the eyes, a different views are projected. So that a depth perception is formed, because it's just like a 3D movie we watch in theaters. And now we can see these blue heads. These are different users from different locations. And now they are collaborating, understanding the view same. They can actually see which user is seeing what. They can explain on a same common space. And every user will be having this particular 3D model in his own physical space. So what is happening here? They are not losing the sense of space. It's not a virtual space. It's physical space, but the content is overlaid on the top of physical space. They can roam around the content, and also users can interact. Again, this is one of the example of enterprise nature metaverse, where people are connecting and interacting in social gathering space. But again, these devices, these are not affordable for the masses. So for some time, these technologies are going to cater the need of enterprises, and for common men, till the time we do not have affordable devices, this thing might not be kind of launched to the, cannot be a mass scale solution. So this is a mixed reality metaverse. So again, we kind of summarize the all the solution what we have discussed. We covered so far XR, that is extended reality, that is composed of augmented reality, virtual reality, and mixed reality. Each of these technologies can be used to create a metaverse. So for augmented reality, we can create something based out of a smartphone solution, which can be gaming, can also be such kind of collaborative tools. So you need not to wear these headsets. You simply can hold your smartphone in your hand. And nowadays there are solutions which can actually put your content on a ground-based detection is there. So we can put this content, and then if each and every user is holding their smartphone, they can collaborate on these digital content also. So when we call different user to our application, that we can say it's kind of a metaverse. So this is the example of mixed reality metaverse. Now, so far all these solutions, I would just summarize from here. This was the example of immersive, where we are requiring headsets. Again, here, this is the head-mounted display. A headset is required to experience mixed reality. A headset is required to experience virtual reality. But what about, if we do away with all devices, like in augmented reality mode, what is other mode? So there is another mode which is there, desktop based metaverse, which is non-immersive in nature. So here, what is happening? If you hold just a tablet in your hand and you just go through this environment, so this is one of the example of metaverse on desktop. So what is happening here? Whatever you are seeing, the website would be kind of appearing like this. So you can see different users are there. In this web meeting, I cannot see which user is sitting where. But if we have a meeting like this, we can see which user is going where they are roaming around. They can also talk. So this is a next stage meeting place, but again non-immersive in nature, and the experience would be similar to what we have just seen, that a user is ported inside a 3D environment, and wherever a mouse click is there, we can see the user is moving around that space. And this particular solution is now getting famous, or getting adopted by multiple companies to showcase their products. So they can put their 3D models or various information points around the space. So you can roam around their virtual spaces, you can learn about their product also, and in such kind of spaces they are selling NFTs also. So they put the NFTs, like Nike, they also created an NFT of their solutions, and those virtual models, and those were also sold, so they could generate revenue. So companies are adopting these solutions very quickly, because this solution is scalable. We can see this solution can be taken to the masses, because everyone is right now having a smartphone, a desktop. So if we create 3D websites, multi-user 3D websites, We can also call it non-immersive metaverse for desktop. So the type of metaverse are different. Those types I also be covering, that what kind of metaverse are there. Those can be used for gaming, where we bring our friends to play game. Those can be a meeting place, where official meeting place, where employees can connect, they can discuss the meeting. um, those can also be for training, where we provide some training. An instructor is there. Classroom solutions can also be there, where a teacher comes, teaches, and students are from located various parts, because e-learning has been adopted. Particularly, we have seen the importance of e-learning in COVID eras. So these solutions where a user is there, he can raise the ask. If avatars are there, their digital replicas are there, they can behave in a manner we are sitting in a physical room. It serves a lot of purpose. So these particular solutions can be launched in across different domains. And again, the spectrum can be smart, that ranges from smartphone to tablets to desktop and to VR headset and MR headset. That depends upon the requirement. So, but now what is the difference? I mean, when we talk about desktop or mobile based solutions, so the major difference, which immersive, when we talk about head mounted devices, when you wear some device on your head, and handheld mode, the major difference is that the field of view. So whenever we are looking at a smartphone screen or a computer screen, that has a very limited view available, and we see our world in a much bigger way. So if we bring something closer to our eyes, we have a greater field of view. So we can place that virtual content and can share the experience in more immersive manner. Secondly, depth perception. When we look at the same screen with the both eyes, we cannot perceive depth. It's just like a movie theater. When we see a flat screen, we don't see depth. But when those 3D glasses are given to us, for each eye, a separate image is filtered. So, for example, if this is the example where if there is a tree behind this man, okay, a man is standing in front of a tree, and so left eye would be capturing the tree towards the left side, and the right eye would capture towards the right side. So brain resolves this mystery by concluding that this is only possible when tree is behind the man. That's how our brain perceives depth. So we need different images for both the eyes. And when we talk about handheld mode, we see same screen with both the eyes. So there cannot be any depth. Here, what is happening? In immersive mode, in head-mounted device mode, we have different views for different eyes. That's why we can see the 3D model in real 3D shape. The 3D model can be viewed by two modes. First, on a flat screen. Secondly, in a kind of immersive manner with head-mounted device. So then we can perceive the depth also. So these immersive technologies provide greater sense of vision, greater sense of depth, and that's how the experience is actually like our real world experience. So another thing which these technologies are different is the immersive nature. So we interact our physical world with 6 degrees of freedom, and that's how this user, we can see the three rotational freedom, three translational freedom. So these are the technologies which are there, and these technologies are basically costly, and also learning resources are costly. So we came up with this solution, which is a controller which works with all smartphone and all the VR headsets. Not all the VR headset, but the VR headset with smartphone, made for smartphone. So you put your smartphone inside this VR headset and connect your this controller with the VR headset, so you can interact with your virtual space with 6 degrees of freedom. So that's why it allows you to create same immersive applications which are possible only on high-end devices. So that's why we call this device as a key to the metaverse for a common man. And this has been awarded by Government of India as top 30 innovations in the 5G event launch. So another thing, when we talk about democratization, the solution should be made by developers, and how the main entry barrier for create something XR content has been not only the hardware but also learning solution. So we have created a cross-platform SDK for the developers where they can create content which can also work with high-end device like Oculus, and the content can be made on a smartphone. And again, for school students and non-coders, a drag and drop based stretch like tools where these immersive AR and VR experiences can be created. And the learning solution we have brought, that is the training our engineering students to create AR VR application. That's how we are trying to build a developer base in India. And so with this course, the collaboration with IIT Roorkee, it's very affordable, and they learn the entire cycle of augmented reality application and virtual reality development, and that too interactive, which otherwise is possible only in high-end devices. So I would just conclude my presentation with this last video, which will actually tell us more about how we can create, a magic even on a smartphone. That's why we are more bullish on this controller, that a lot of innovations can be. Yeah. So this is the controller. So this can be, with 6 degrees of freedom interaction, this can be used for playing games, where you can see the user simply wearing the smartphone-based headset and playing all these games. This is a bit about our intuitive SDK, which is available for the developers, where by simple drag and drop option, and also by adding a few scripts, they can make simple to very complex experiences for augmented reality and virtual reality. So this is the SDK example. This is solutions for schools, where by simple drag and drop, you can see they are coding around the controller. And whenever they made this application, this can be viewed on augmented reality mode, where with simple button press, the user has commanded 3D content to get bigger and smaller. And what kind of content is possible? So this is the content, and this is a very powerful tool which can convert any smart classroom into AR powered classroom. So this controller is unique in a way that it works in both the mode, augmented reality also and virtual reality mode also. So here just a smartphone camera is being used to capture these augmented reality contents. And when we talk about virtual reality, VR use cases, so lots of virtual reality, the gaming part we have already seen. And this is also used for such kind of productivity applications in learning modules, the skill development modules, where we can learn about the various part of the machines, the digital twins. If we create the digital twin for the metaverse, so interactive metaverse, we can collaborate across these spaces, virtual tours, virtual museum. The possibilities are basically endless. So this is all about this, and I would stop my presentation here, and I would open the floor for further question and answer sessions.
Thanks, Prashant. I think I'll read out the questions, what we are seeing in the chat window. So first one is like, can you please throw some light on sensory experiences in immersive metaverse?
Yes. So basically, it's called haptic feedback when we talk about, these controllers. Two controllers are there in the metaverse domain. Apart from these controllers, there are more wearable devices which gives which give basically this haptic feedback. So there are some suits are coming. If you wear those suits, if someone is interacting with those physical objects and colliding, and someone is touching, so those particular areas you can feel vibrations. There are some gloves are also coming. So when you pick up some object, its hardness, softness, those everything can be sensed with these gloves. It depends upon what kind of sensors they have used. So these solutions are coming for greater and immersive metaverse experiences.
Yeah, I guess we see one more. Will the application be adaptable to other industries, say medical and healthcare?
This application, which application, if you can make it clear? If you are talking about collaboration space, if you're talking about industrial collaboration space, so definitely it can be for medical collaboration. In fact, in healthcare, such kind of solutions are being preferred, where the doctors are discussing the even 3D and MRI data from across the location, where the expert view can be taken. So that is, direct use case with the medical and healthcare solutions.
Okay. So how the regulatory bodies are working with this so much of virtual reality, XR, metaverse coming in? So maybe if you can throw some light on that.
Regulatory bodies means drafting the rules and all, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so basically, the solution has yet not been, launched at a mass scale. So the rules are being drafted and framed right now. Basically, what happens whenever the technology is launched, generally it is observed for some time that how the technology is being adopted. So as far as the rules and regulations are concerned, there are not much rules, but definitely metaverse is in general the extension of your digital 2D space. So all those regulations which are there for cybersecurity and all those privacy issues, those are strictly applicable for metaverse also. But again, as my previous speaker has said, that with integration of this metaverse with blockchain, it has certain degree of security available. So that's why I think it would take some time to frame the rules. First, the technology is needed to be adopted at a higher level, and then its repercussion would be kind of evaluated, and the further rules would be drafted.
Yeah. I guess, Prashant, we are good and we are top of the hour. We would like to facilitate you. Mayur, you want to get the...
Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, yes.
Thank you so much, sir. It was a very profound talk. Now I request Nikita to continue the session.
Nikita, we can't hear you, Nikita. Hi, Vasanta. Just give us a minute. Yeah.
Start once again.
Our next talk is digital twins for industrial applications. We have our speaker, Ms. Vashanta Subbaya. She is the Vice President, Communications and Partnership, Flagship Engineering Technologies. Ms. Vashanta Subbaya is a tech enthusiast actively working towards innovating technology to save water and building sustainable water consumption practices for the future. She is an active member of the Smart Cities Working Group by the Institution of Engineering Technology. She authored and co-authored white paper, research papers, and articles on water digital twins for the Indian contents for the Institution of Engineering Technology, that is IEEE India. She is the recipient of the Summer Fellowship at the Indian Institute of Technology, Madras. Ms. Vashanta is also a renowned jury and at Smart India Hackathons, Defense Services Hackathons, and IET India Scholarship Awards. Now I request Mrs. Vashanta Subbaya ma'am to take over the session.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Nikita, for the kind introduction. And thanks, Dr. Kumudini and the IEEE Bangalore section for having me here. And the speakers before me have actually set up the stage. So I'm going to leverage upon the details that have been shared. So today I'm here to speak upon the digital twins for industrial application and specific to water digital twins. I'll just take a moment to share my screen. Yes. Yes, I hope my screen is visible. Okay. I'll begin now. Myself, Vasanta, and I'm part of Fluxgen Sustainable Technologies, and we are more into building technology and making the world sustainable. We are like building solutions using technology, the advanced solutions. So digital twins is one of the solution, and I'll take through this presentation and understanding and helping you understand how this works in actual. So basically, today I'll touch upon the topics of, since Metaverse is the theme for the present for the event today. So we'll delve a bit about how Metaverse and digital twins work, and in specific to the water twins and how Fluxgen is working towards the digital twins in the industrial perspective. So this was a basic study which intrigued me when I came to know about this topic on metaverse and digital twin. And I did a Google Trend search, and I understood that, as you can all see, the metaverse spiked up really recently around 2000, early 2022, 2022. And the IoT has seen a very gradual increase, and the concept of digital twin is just building. So the concept of demystifying metaverse by the IEEE Bangalore section is very vital at this point in juncture, when we need to understand the basic critics, and and also appreciate on how we can take the look of it forward. And digital twin is mostly in the conceptualization and ideation stage, and at certain places, yes, it has come into action, and I'll also briefly discuss upon how we are being implementing it. So Gartner is one of very popular, I would say, an organization which gives you a lot of insights on the technology trends, and also the hype cycle was by the Gartner for emerging technologies was really looked upon. So if you talk about the digital twin, it comes somewhere in the peak of the inflation or of inflated expectation. And if you see, the legend says it will be around 5 to 10 years. So the plateau will reach around in a span of 5 to 10 years, starting in 2018. So we are almost 4 years down the lane from 2018. So that's when the digital twin and the technology related to that are all spearing up. And similarly, we have the connected home, the mixed reality, and we have the previous speaker also spoke on the mixed reality and the augmented reality, which are all taking shape. So I think we are also following this kind of a curve, and we'll be also reaching a plateau of productivity soon. This is a stage where we are trying to understand the technology and see how that can be leveraged to our scope of work in different areas. Um, yes, and this was another thing on metaverse, which when it really popped up, I was intrigued to also understand on what does that mean, because even organizations changed their name to Meta recently. So having understood that, I found that Meta means beyond and verse means universe. So they said that metaverse was coined from this book by Neil Stephenson's Snow Crash, where he first mentioned the term metaverse, and he mentioned about details which are beyond the universe. And now talking about metaverse and digital twin. So as the previous speaker already spoke about, it's about mapping the physical world with into a virtual reality kind of a thing. So we are just mapping it to give it a kind of a digital experience, so that we can call it as a digital twin. However, there is something called as a digital native. So a digital native is something where there is a hybrid adaptation of a physical world. So this is like an actual replica of a physical world. The asset is being actually replicated is a digital twin, but when you tend to do a bit of modifications, that comes a with digital native. But when you try to create a space entirely different, like the gaming environment that we saw, or the environment, you try to reach a place that never existed before, or the various gaming environments like Pokemon Go or the other things that were available. So those are all are the virtual reality concepts in a very bird's eye view, if you see. So here we'll delve more into the concept of digital twins. So as a concept, this digital twins, it originated somewhere in 1960s, when the NASA's Apollo program, when they were like building the Apollo mission, they wanted to see how it actually worked. So they wanted to create Earth-based replicas of the space vehicle, and also they tried to mirror the conditions. In fact, there's something called as, if you delve more into metaverse, there's a buzzword also called as mirror worlds also. So similar to that, they tried mirroring the condition, but the only thing was in 1960s, with the available technology, they were able to create an exact replica of this of a globe or an earth, per se, and it was not in a digital way. That was the only thing. But the conditions of earth and everything, that was actually mirrored exactly the same way. So 1960s we can date back to. And to talk on the building, as I told you before, it's metaverse is a very big topic. So talking about digital twin, I would call them as these assets are the building blocks to building a bigger metaverse. So it's a digital copy of the physical object, and this is where your virtual image of your asset will be maintained. So where will AI come? So when you talk about AI, that's when the data interpretation happens. So your data collection happens through these real-time objects, and then using analytics and the insights and the AI algorithms, that's when your AI and the IoT functions happen. In fact, we had one previous speaker also ask question on how is the IoT and the metaverse work. So and it was well taken by the speaker, who also mentioned about it's all almost like related to digital twin. And yes, that's how digital twins also tend to work. And very recently, this is also come up in terms of manufacturing and production. That's something called as the product lifecycle management in 2003 by Michael. So what he aimed was to optimize the production cycle, that is from the designing till the installation and the maintenance. He really wanted to understand, not to repeat the faults, or to first to get a hands hold on things like a simulation model and then go on to the field. So that's when he tried to develop a digital twin model. Even this is also seen as a kind of a history for how digital twins have evolved throughout. So there was a real world where we had prototypes and testing and manufacturing also. However, when we go to a simulation world, that is a digital twin intelligence, we have a kind of a 3D simulation that happens, and also virtual commissioning. That is, we tend to put in a few variables, few kinds of data that we want to test through in what if scenarios that was mentioned. And then we have this data that works as in real time. If you see, there's something called a shadow twin also. So in terms of IoT, you've all known, right? It's the Internet of Things. And there's something called IIoT, that's the Industrial Internet of Things. That's very specific to Industry 4.0 standard and all. So when you talk of manufacturing and production, when these digital twins are mostly, they're referred to as shadow twins also. And that's why they're mentioned as shadow twins here, right? So going forward, here I'd like to show how we build the gap and bring technology for sustainability, and in specific to water. So why in water is that, mostly we've all seen water crisis, and everywhere we've heard of how water is being exploited and wasted and misused. But we've come to a situation where there was water crisis and day zero was being felt in some parts of the world, even in India, and like most in Chennai we had a water shortage. Bangalore is also facing water crisis. So this map by the World Resource Institute, it gives that about 54% of India faces high water stress, and even Niti Aayog's recent report also says that 21 large cities will, have their groundwaters that will be drying up soon because of overutilization. So having all this in mind, this is like on a national perspective, and second is on the global trends. If you see, water is being commoded even in the Wall Street. So that was a news that just made a news, and it was it gave a lot of interest for people to work on the water sector, and also another insight about the seven countries that are facing extremely high water stress, and you can see India is one of them. So having all this in mind, we wanted to see the bridge the gap, and see how technology can be used. And why industry in specific? Because industries, if you see, as compared to the municipal water usage, their consumption pattern is about 3 to 4 times higher, and there are a lot of water intensive sectors where manufacturing happens. It's like food and beverage, it can be textile industries, it can be dairy sector. So having all this in mind, even if you see, the Ministry of Water Resources have also come into statistics that about 7 to 8% of total freshwater withdrawal uh, of the country is by industries, and also it will be tripling over the next 2 decades. And if you see on the report, I mean by McKinsey here, it's not only the water that the industries that they pay for, but it's also the water that they will be the water charges post the water usage, that is on the disposal charge, on the chemical treatment of water post usage, the wastewater treatment, the value of water that is being used in case of cooling towers and all. So everything adds up, and the true cost of water is being added by the carrier costs. I would say carrier cost are the chemicals, the heat that the water involves, the energy that it's involved, in pumping, purification, and cycling throughout the distribution system. So having all this in mind, industrial sector was something that was, that actually requires a lot of intervention. And once we tend to stabilize the industrial sector by helping them to optimize their water usage, maybe that water will also be available for human consumption. So that's the entire motive behind an industrial perspective to digital water twins today. And before delving into the digital water twin, I want to help you understand what's actually happening in the industries today. At most of the industries, I would say, not every industry, there is a lot of human intervention in terms of monitoring the facility. The meters are located at different places. If you happen to visit a industry, that's it expands over a wide acres of land, and the meters will be placed at either the source side, or STP plant will be on the other side of the place. There'll be distribution pipes running everywhere, and if you can see, people have to climb up through all these places, and they'll have to check. So the manual monitoring is really hazardous. At the same time, it requires a lot of safety precautions also. So it's a lot of human intensive, and also the ledger maintenance is also happening at most places. And yeah, I mean, there's a difference between when you talk about water as a very important resource that's actually facing a lot of crisis. Like if a patient is like really not well, his vitals will be monitored continuously, right? Similarly, when water is going to, it's a very crisis situation. When we are in a crisis situation, we need to monitor it regularly to help understand and optimize the pattern. So similarly, this ledger maintenance of maintaining once in a day, maybe it could have been really good previously, but having the conditions now, it's not that effective. At the same time, a lot of mechanical the measurements are all not digitized. They are all mechanical type infrastructures are available. So having seen all these trends, what we at Fluxten do is something like we de-risk industries and buildings from water crisis, and what we provide is an end-to-end validated visibility of the entire water management structure through technology, and that's digital twins kind of. And here we come to digital twin. So specifically on digital water twin, if we speak about, there will be 2 layers of system. One is a physical system, and second is the digital twin system. And when you talk of physical system, it refers to the infrastructure that is on field. It can refer to your taps, it can refer to the pipelines that are already built in, and it can refer to the overhead tanks, the sumps, the bore wells. So all these systems are part of the water infrastructure. And second things comes, that a part of the physical system is the sensing and the control, which includes sensors, sensors are pressure sensors, temperature sensors, flow sensors, even quality monitoring is also done. But there are like few parameters that needs a bit of laboratory based quality monitoring that goes for a lab testing, but mostly there are few inline quality monitoring sensors also available. And actuators, in the sense, you've heard of, you can turn off your motors, and also that's when your hydraulic and your pneumatic and electrical actuators work. And advanced monitoring in terms of AMI, that's the advanced metering infrastructures, the edge devices are also in place. So once you tend to place all these sensors near the collection near the monitoring station, that's when your collection of data will happen. And your data will be in terms of three aspects, as it mentions here. It's on a spatial, transactional, and temporal. So it covers all the three attributes. And the system will be, it as mentioned, it can be, based on a building management system that's already available, or a system that we can build upon. SCADA systems are already available at a couple of places, but having a lot of disadvantages to it. It's very similar to, large space that it occupies for, and also a wired kind of mechanism. SCADA based systems are seeing a bit not that much of implementation in recent days, but SCADA has been very successful in the past. And nowadays we have wireless telemetry and 5G also coming up. So this kind of wireless mechanism of data collection is actually in trend. Once we tend to get all this data from the physical system is when we delve into the digital twin. And digital twin is when we tend to see the data in terms of how what they're like, what to do with the data, how to manage the data, and where to store the data. So when all this comes, and how to project the data, that's the visualization aspect. So we have to make insights out of the data in order to give the maintenance people or the people who are in charge to take proactive actions out of it. And that's when the AI and the machine learning models come up to, and that those are the data driven models. Apart from that, the data management, and data management will be totally on how do we optimize on the data collection, and how is the network connectivity at that particular area. Because when you talk of industries, again, it's it's spread across expanse area, and we need to see, and it's also not mostly in the prime area and city, so we have to check on the connectivity issues also. And next is the visualization on how do we actually tend to project it, which is very much user friendly, and people can understand it in one go. And those are through the user experiences, which we call as the real-time dashboards, the mobile phone alerts that we give. And also these visualizations will also help you to simulate, to give the what if scenarios, right? So as a if you see, it is kind of a looped kind of a situation, which will help you give informed decision making, and also optimize performance, and also give you actionable result. Now let's see in real time how Fluxgen does it. So basically, if you see, I'll come back to the benefits. So if you see, this is like an architecture that we talk about, where you have a couple of meters and sensors that are being placed, and we have a common aggregator. This is just for a understanding, and they're connected to a common cloud. So what happens is that your entire data will be the entire digital asset. I would call it as a flow meter, or a level sensor, or a device that is useful for monitoring the pressure based sensors. They will all be mapped into a digital asset model, and will be viewed on your desktop, right? And as per we go on the second phase of the digital twin, the AI based analytics, the wireless cloud sensing, because it's a wireless mechanism, and it's ease of integration with the existing system. The reason being that there's like a lot of infrastructures that are already built, and our systems are really hybrid. It can also go with an capex and an opex model, and mostly with infrastructures built since for a few decades. It's the industries do look forward to a lot of operational expenditure models, and there's a lot of ease of integration with this kind of systems. And having a cloud interface, we also ensure that the data is also securely transmitted. So basically, the KPIs that we look forward to are the leakage detection, the wastage detection, and the water usage detection. These and all will be the derived outputs from the digital twins, and they can also be with what if scenarios we'll be able to understand based on the few thresholds that we can give it manually, and we can also fine tune it. So let's first delve into these physical systems, right? So this is like a model of actual implementation at field of what we do. So we have such flow meters being installed, and this is our sensory device. So this is a sensory device. This is our data collection module, as we already saw, right? So we have a sensing control and we have a data collection source. So the sensors can be flow sensors. So this is an example of a flow meter, and this is a sensor module which will be helping to collect the data and also push the data to the suitable cloud interface. And post that, we have the set of digital twins. We'll see how it works. So first thing is that we have this kind of a leakage detected at a processing unit, or if it's like at this particular instant and time, right? So if you see here, we have something called as a data management and data ingestion and integration. So we first have to understand on how do we make these data as actionable insights, and this is an interface that we tend to give for visualization. And it shows you the number of alerts, the actions taken, and also the thresholds. This is also on in the front of level monitoring, wherein the borewell and the tanks, the tankers, as in the water from the tanker lorries and all, when we get it right. So when they are filled into the OHTs, and some will be able to see. And this is the consumption summary. And this is like actual replica of the entire model at the field level. So if you can see this, each of the when we were this is like a very basic model of replication of a digital twin, I would say, wherein we can see a particular threshold beyond which, if the meter is not functioning. So each of this is a flow meter and a level sensor also. So if they are not functioning, or if it's not beyond the threshold, certain highlights can be given. Here the threshold has been set in certain way that once it exceeds a certain level of consumption point, a red light will be glowing, and this is for a particular infrastructure which scales up to this kind of an expanse area. If you see there's a flow meter in the inlet, and this is the production unit, so you have a lot of clustered flow meters here. So based on this kind of an interface, a digital water twin kind of a scenario will be really helpful to visualize things and get things onboarded. And this is also, we talked about a mobile interface which will be easier, and we previous speakers also spoke about how do we interface things with a mobile, which which is very handy, and it will be really useful for us. So similarly, we have this kind of a mobile interface which you can understand on the consumption pattern, and also track the consumption based on yesterday's and today's, and also get reports and actionable insights based on what you can do. And this actually covers the entire physical system of the digital twins. We have covered the physical and as well as the digital twin, and that's how Fluxton has been working towards providing a solution to managing the water infrastructure. So basically, this digital twin model, it works on understanding the entire, for digital water twin, works on understanding the water balancing, that's we call it as a water balancing chart from the source to the sink. And we tend to this will help us identify the potential inefficiencies and also section wise water consumption, which is very essential for production based manufacturing units. And also to track the borewell and the water sum, because with the recent compliances, right, the central government, Central Groundwater Authority of India, CGW, has come up with a compliance that every industry, including few MSMEs, should also install digital water flow meters to understand the amount of water they are taking from the bore. So our devices will help to comply with the government norms and also keep in trend with the technology. And apart from that, we also have this communication with the devices and also the data backup from them. So basically, as a whole, I would say that this is like a Six Sigma approach, where we tend to first understand, that's defined, and then you measure it using the sensory devices, and the analyze, improve, and control comes as part of the digital twin. So this is a brief summary of how digital twins are used in the in Fluxton. And this is also paper that I co-authored for which is titled as Water Digital Twins for Indian Context. This also deals about cities water distribution also, like it talks on Spain and Jordan. So right, so this kind of so this here I end. Thank you so much. This is my mail ID. You can reach out to me for any queries.
Yeah, thank you for that talk, Vasanta. The floor is now open for Q&A. I do see one question in the chat. So, how is the digital twin different from a simulation?
Right. Thanks for that question. So basically, simulate a digital twin, as I mentioned to you before, it's actually a physical object, and that's been made a digital copy of the physical object. So if it's a flow meter, you have a flow meter available there on the device. If it's like a human, you have a human, as in you have an avatar or a human actually, who's actually there. So it's simulation in other case, if you talk of any kind of simulation in terms of you have a lot of assumptions, you have a lot of variables, you have they I would call simulation very similar to something called as a virtual reality, in fact, wherein you tend to create your own space, digital space, and you tend to create it. But digital twin is something like you tend to map the physical objects asset into the actual into a reality, into a digital space. So I think I have answered that question.
Thank you so much. We have another question coming in. What kind of sensors required?
Yeah, so sensors in the sense that it's good if we have a digital sensor, in the sense that, there are a lot of sensors with outputs, when you talk of like RS-485 outputs, or you have pulse-based output or Modbus or heart protocol-based outputs. So these are all digital outputs, which will be, able to sync with the data, and, you will able to communicate to 4 to 20, kind of infrastructure which is already being built in the industry. So it's mostly digital sensors that we tend to work around with.
All right. I think that's all we had on the questions. Nikita, over to you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, everyone, for this very nice opportunity to share my thoughts.
Now we would move to our next talk, cybersecurity of Metaverse. I would like to introduce our speaker, Ms. Sailaja Vadlamuni, Senior Director, Security and Privacy, SAP. Ms. Sailaja Vadlamuni is among the leading voices in the digital space regarding security and data privacy with 2 decades of experience. She is widely regarded as the cybersecurity influencer and earned torchbearer titles for her intense contribution by leveraging tech solutions for the benefits of society targeting rural areas. Among her many diverse innovators, she is the founder of SAP, Women in Cybersecurity, and non-profit organization called Women Cybersecurity and Privacy aims to raise cybersecurity awareness among women, young girls, and children to alert them of digital threats and cultivate their personalities. She is recipient of multiple prestigious awards, which includes Top Indian Woman Influencer in Security and Security Award 2020, Top 10 Women Tech Leaders India Award 2021 by Reva University, Top 25 Inspiring Women Leaders Award 2022 by Sabar Art. Now I request Ms. Sailaja Vadlamuni ma'am to take over the session.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let me just try sharing my video as well. Can you view me as well?
Yeah, we can see you.
Just you can view me, right? Yeah, and good morning from my side as well. I think today we've been hearing a lot about metaverse, and as my previous speaker I also rightly mentioned, right? This is a topic which is really apt, and everybody is talking about it, and we realized it or not. I think let me just, can you all see my screen as well?
Yeah, I can
Now
see.
we can see.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then, yeah, the metaverse. I think this is existing for quite some time because I don't want to repeat whatever, the advantage of being, later in the line is also like most of the things are already covered by your co-speakers and you don't have to do the basic introductions or what is the, when the metaverse term has come in and so on and so forth. Since I work heavily in the application aspect and the cybersecurity space today, I would like to take you around some of the challenges we have not only just in the metaverse, but in the entire ecosystem of metaverse. I think since morning we've been hearing about a lot of, uh, you know, uh, definitions about metaverse, what metaverse is all about. Is metaverse and internet the same? How is it going to be different and so on and so forth? Of course, yes. We all know internet is all about billions of computers, servers connected all across the globe. And it is also some space where there are no boundaries for any digital citizen to access anything, right? For sure, metaverse is going to be built on the internet. And if I have to talk about metaverse in a child kind of in or in a children version of the definition, I have to say is it's about cartoonifying the entire digital world around us, just sitting at the ease of our chair or at our home or whatever it is. So the digital world is going to be different. The look and feel is going to be different. And of course, the huge experience that we are going to get out of it is going to be entirely different. That is what all metaverse is going to offer us as an emerging technology and as an emerging digital world that we are going to expect and see in future. And as we all know, metaverse is made of so many components and so on and so forth. I think 5G is also there all around, and there are a couple of people who also made a lot of noise about 5G, not only about the security aspects, but the harms. All these advanced technology and especially about this 5G network is going to pose to the human beings when it comes to the rays and so on and so forth. But since I'm going to kind of cover up on the security aspects of it today, I just also wanted to talk about what are the challenges we foresee in 5G as a technology as such. Because we see there's so many devices connected. Yes, we all know at a blink of an eye, you can download, what should I say, a small movie, yeah, of 3 hours in a blink of an eye. Yes, that is going to be the reality. Everyone is also quite excited about it. But at the same time, it also brings in a lot of challenges, right? When there is an excessive speed that is offered, it can be for a car, it can be for an internet. There are a lot of implications, the negative implications around it. So far, yes, when people are planning to intercept the data that is being thrown around, they can get some amount of data. But in this 5G world, people can also get the context around it. Yeah. And then now they always talk about insufficiency of perimeter defenses and all that. In the context of 5G, I think, the identity is going to become the new perimeter and so on and so forth. So I can go on and go on and on because I think in a way, thanks also to the pandemic, there are huge number of people connected to the devices and all those devices are connected to the internet. And also with the 5G, there are lot many more devices getting connected to the internet. And I think smart is the new style, right? All of us also sometimes were very proud to say that I have a smart TV, I have a smart refrigerator, I have a smart washing machine, and so on and so forth. Just imagine all these devices are connected together and somebody is trying to get the context or somebody is trying to find the location where your refrigerator is located or where your washing machine is located or where your oven is located and so on and so forth, which means you're in a way giving your keys of your entire plan, your house plan, or whatever it is, your devices, where they are existing, where they are located, to someone who it shouldn't be given to. Yeah. On the other side, yeah, we are also talking about we are moving from a human mediated environment to the decentralized, third generation. I think here it is gone, third generation era of the internet. So which is none other than Web 3.0, right? Which is also one of the aspect that we are going to experience as part of the 5G. Yeah. Can you all hear me well? And is there any network latency or something?
Everything is good. Everything is.
Because from my end, I think I'm getting a signal like network is weak. Is it okay if I switch off my video?
Yeah, that should be good.
Okay, sure. Thank you. Here, what are the challenges, especially from the security aspect of it, that we are going to face when we are talking about Web 3.0, right? Yes, there are so many security challenges considering the amount of time that we have. I'm going to highlight a couple of them in each of the aspect of it. One of it is authenticity of the data. Who is going to decide whether or not the information is accurate in the first place? And what will be the motivation or incentive for promoting the fact-based information? Yeah, because there is no regulation, it is not regulated, it is decentralized, the Web 3.0 is going to be. On the other end, the biggest aspect is data manipulation. In the absence of verification process, right, Web 3.0 might become the world's largest source of deception. And people can also manipulate the data to get the results they want from search engines, which sounds scary, right? Because at least so far, all the generations trust Google to a larger extent. They just think Google knows everything. Yeah. And also the concerns on confidentiality. Breach of data confidentiality is a very common occurrence, and this threat perception is heightened in case of Web 3.0. So these are some of the surface issues that I am talking about, what kind of challenges that we are going to see in Web 3.0. And we all also know, right, and at least we have been also hearing since morning, like, yeah, IoT and Metaverse will bring the main focus on carrying out simulations. Yes, IoT is going to be a major role player in giving the entire experience of Metaverse. But nonetheless, even the IoT ecosystem has a lot of security challenges. Yeah, when we talk about the challenges in IoT, right, they start from different levels. Like it starts from insecure user interface, because here we know a device's user interface is generally the first thing a malicious hacker will for any kind of vulnerabilities or weaknesses that are available. For instance, they might try to manipulate, like, I forgot my password, and then they try to reset it at least to find whether the username as an email or so on and so forth. And also identity and access management. When we talk about access, right, access, because IoT security can also be compromised from network access and at different layers and all that. And identity and access management is typically related to end users, but in the context of IoT, it can also extend to devices and applications that require network and resource access. Because IoT is all set of bunch of devices connected, right? Small, tiny, big chips, and so on and so forth. And in this entire equation, when we look into this data integrity, right? How can we ensure, because in the entire IoT equation, right? And data is really crucial for IoT operations, and it is also critical if its integrity is wholesome. And it has to be taken measures to ensure that our data has not been manipulated, neither while at rest, in transit, or in use. Because we've been also hearing a lot more examples. IoT will also be used in healthcare industries and so on and so forth. Just imagine there's a surgery or something happening on, and people are completely relying on the data that is swiping out of all of these devices. And if someone middle in the man is trying to manipulate or try to steal or do something with the data, how a big disaster it is going to be, right? And normally, whenever we talk about software or any device, at least whenever I do a lot of awareness sessions, as you've heard also about, I do a lot of awareness for students and young children and women, right? Nowadays, it's also a joke to ask anybody, do you have a smartphone? Do you have a touch phone? Everybody has it. Even to them, we all keep telling them, update your, whatever apps that you have on your device, update your iOS and so on and so forth. But the challenge when it comes to IoT devices is software updates. Many Internet of Things creators don't even patch or update the software. And when you don't patch or when you don't upgrade your devices, then it is leaving a lot of entry points to so many attackers to get into the ecosystem and get access to. And yeah, let me just take one other, like inertia. Inertia is generally one of the greatest cyber security threats of today, because people don't want to change from where they are. And at the other side, technology is going at a constant evolving mode, and hackers elaborate more and more strategies to get what they desire. And if the organizations are sticking to, because when we talk about IoT and IIoT, industrial IoT, right, Not necessarily every time they go and, for example, IT companies, they tend to pick a new vendor, a new technology, a new version of the software or the applications and so on and so forth. But in this ecosystem, not necessarily they are upgrading or they are still using security tools which are developed some decades ago. And also, like, people can exploit all the vulnerabilities, the buffer overflows, the malware attacks, the Trojans, adways, spyways, and so on and so forth. So these are some of the challenges that the IoT is posing to the entire ecosystem. And here we also know the best thing that could come out of IoT is digital twins. Yeah, this is not prone to, this is not so sanitized so that it is not prone to any security issues and so on and so forth. There are really good amount of dangers in the digital twins. First thing is like system access. Gaining access to digital twin could not only get insights into the system or assess it, but also, more dangerously, they can get control out of those physical assets. Just imagine you have a replica of your digital twin, and then somebody is accessing it and accessing the digital version of it, and they can literally physically control the physical asset, which is going to be really scary even to hear about it, right? And since digital twins are really, popping up and people are working on it, as the previous speaker was also rightly, talking about the evolutions in this and how people are really moving forward. IP theft, intellectual property. Yeah, huge demand for hackers is to steal the intellectual property of digital twins so that they don't have to really break their heads to come up with an idea, rather they can replicate and start working on it. And non-compliance, for sure, we have so many laws around the world, like starting from GDPR and so on and so forth. So this combining this physical world and the digital world using this digital twins, if there is any leakage, if there is any non-compliance, for example, the privacy laws like GDPR, the organizations end up paying huge penalties as well. Are there any questions in the line?
No, not really. You can continue, Shailaja.
Okay. And then when we talk about the information integrity, right? Information can lose its integrity when people are able to access our data and make unauthorized changes. So whatever rules are applicable for regular applications, that also have to be considered really very closely for digital twins as well. And so far you must be thinking about why, Shailaja is talking about, the digital twins, IoT, and so on and so forth. Of course, the composition of Metaverse layers, right? We have 7 layers in Metaverse, you might have heard since beginning of today. And each and every layer is composed of several technologies starting from 5G, IoT, cloud computing, and XR, AI, ML, design tools. And it's a composition of huge combination of powerful technologies, blockchain, and so on and so forth. I can take the list on and on. Just imagine I have only considered, or I've only covered a couple of aspects which are going to be part of this metaverse, and there are several security challenges. Some of them are already advanced and some of them are still at infancy. And the combination of all of this is going to be the new world in the internet, which is the metaverse world. And all these powerful technologies, for sure, they were also going to spark a torrent of security threats moving forward. And what are the security issues when we are coming into the metaverse as in world, right? For sure, we see so many security issues. The biggest challenge I see from my experience also is integration of different systems. Let me tell you one example. Like in the large enterprises, normally what we do is we just we keep buying companies day in and day out. It's the case with so many organizations around us. Whenever you go and read the newspapers, right? I think most of you are tech savvy as well here, and you keep hearing like Google acquired some company or Microsoft acquired one company to get into metaverse and so on and so forth. Just imagine, it's not so easy. It's good to always onboard a lot of companies and acquire and keep them. But at the same time, the biggest challenge the companies are also seeing is integrating them, because they are developed on different stack, different technology, different tools, different process, different people, different mindsets, different cultures, right? So still most of the companies are figuring out on how to integrate and how to really kind of, give the best efforts or give the best products to their customers and end users in the end. And if you look into this, Metaverse is an entire ecosystem. We have to integrate several systems. Yeah, and then when we are integrating, first of all, we are only understanding couple of security issues in each and every system that is our technology that is going to be involved in Metaverse. And when we are going to integrate, right, it is going to raise several other security problems, because I'm not sure how many of you have heard, there was a data breach that happened. There was a large chain of hotels, which is Marriott. They bought in a hotel called Starwood, and they integrated both of these systems together. And one fine day, Marriott has to undergo a huge data breach. The reason being, the company that they acquired had already a backdoor in the system. When they integrated both of them together, the guys who got into the system, they also got access to the entire list of customer data of the Marriott, wherein the entire data is leaked, and they also ended up paying huge penalties and so on and so forth. I'm just telling about two similar entities who got integrated, who got, doing the same business and so on and so forth. Here it's going to be a lot more different, lot more diverse and so on and so forth. And these integrations will definitely be potentially increasing the cyber physical risks. And devices. Yes, I think you all have heard a lot and lot more about, even I learned a lot about XR, AI, VR, and so many devices. Yeah, several devices will be used in the metaverse, and there is also large amount of data that is going to be generated out of each of these devices that are connected. And for sure, hackers will be easily accessing head-mounted devices like HoloLens and other AR, VR gadgets, and trying to intercept the information that is being sent. And these attackers can be, they can be passive or they can be active as well. And the biggest aspect, because identity, everybody wants to have their identity, right? And identity is one of the biggest aspect. And identity access management is also one of the, one of the things that we have to closely monitor, because normally authorization and authentication have always been an issue in Web 2.0. This issue can easily be escalated in the metaverse, considering the users are represented as avatars, right? Each and everyone will be represented as avatars. And not only the avatars, right? People are like buying so many gadgets for the avatars. Recently, I was just looking into one of the statistics. All this, I think fashion industry, right? These designers are kind of coming up with a lot of new designs for all the avatars and for all the things that are going to happen on metaverse. And it is at a large scale, like it is going up in heaps, and it is picking up a lot of momentum in the fashion world as well. Well, and what happens when the identity theft, right? If the identity of an user is stolen, and his or her avatars, digital assets, social relationships, or even the digital life in the metaverse can be leaked, which can be more severe than in the traditional information systems, right? And the impersonation attacks are nothing but an attacker can carry out the impersonation attack by pretending to be someone else, and then gaining the authorized entry to several systems or and other services in the entire ecosystem of the metaverse, because identity is a very key aspect. And many of the times hackers also try to steal the identity so that they can perform lot many activities and so on and so forth using this identity. And data, yes, data is one of the biggest thing in this entire equation of metaverse. And data tampering, yes, people will try to, attackers will try to change, erase, alter, and even fabricate the raw data. And they just do all of this to interface with users and avatars, regular activities on the platforms. Because normally when they alter all these details, right, they're also very smart, because I said they're also upping the game day in and day out. They just also ensure all these log files are also deleted after they make changes to the data, so that nobody will be able to identify what happened exactly in this entire ecosystem. Yeah, so these guys are kind of, using their brains more than any one of us else. And at the same time, false data injection attacks. Attackers can also inject falsified information such as false messages and wrong instructions to mislead metaverse systems and so on and so forth. When we see the entire equation, right, humans are in and out of the loop, because humans are very much part of the loop. And at the same time, when it comes to performing some of the activities, like web platforms will inevitably, for example, require metaverse administrators to push automation, and that is to tackle more and more tasks with algorithms rather than the human operators. Yeah, in this case, they need to delegate the tasks and operation to algorithms, especially to those implemented with cutting edge AI techniques, emerge from both the needs to achieve greater scalability, and so on and so forth. At one phase, we are telling humans are in the middle of everything in the metaverse. On the other phase, we are also heavily depending on the technologies on AI, ML to automate things with the huge amount of data that is going to be generated on these platforms. Yeah. And yeah, so far we are talking about, the human aspects of it. And for sure, today I only want to cover about the security aspects, but nonetheless, there are so much of data that is generated. And in the digital era, data has become the gold because I can go on and on data. Data is the new oil. Data is the center of everything. And let me tell you one quick example. When anybody is planning to buy anything on the e-commerce websites, nowadays we naturally go there, right? On Amazon or Flipkart. First thing, at least most of us see is ratings. How many people have bought a specific thing on the platform? What are the ratings and what are the opinions of the people? And if there is any specific item available there wherein none of them have bought so far, we will be skeptical to really pick it up, right? So in a way, what I'm trying to say is unconsciously, our lives are also codified by the data around, and data is also driving the decisions even in our personal life, even to a smaller extent of buying a small pen or a small gadget or anything that, matters to us. So here huge amounts of data is generated, and then of course the cyber criminals are also targeting to get hold of this data mine so that they can also make gold mines out of this data mines. And yeah, when we are talking about this, for sure there are so many privacy laws around the world, but as we all know, metaverse is still evolving, and we just know a couple of security issues that I'm talking about here today, but I also foresee there'll be a lot more security issues that we might face. And yeah, and also some other aspects. Along with the security issues, there are also some ethical issues on this platform, because normally there will be these ethical issues that are arising out of metaverse due to the absence and the confusion of corresponding natural norms. But normally it is also conflicting the ethical norms of the society, because and there are also not many laws that are available here, and at the same time human safety and cyber syndromes. So cyber syndrome is actually people who are spending a lot more time on the devices. I think most of them have undergone a lot of challenges, not only with respect to the physical health but also the mental health. There are also a lot of researchers done around this, especially these kids and everybody spending a lot of time on the devices, how their behaviors are getting aggregated, how they're becoming really less tolerant, and their social interactions are going for a toss, and so on and so forth. On the other aspect, people were also expecting there are so much of human safety issues, because if somebody is trying to get into someone's room, and then if they're trying to scare someone by posting some content onto the screen where people are all alone in the room, and then people can also become panicky, and it also leads to some health issues and so on and so forth. At the same time, people, there are standards and compatibilities. Everybody is talking about avatars, and on the other side, companies are also heavily investing on this technology. If I can make a list, Google, Microsoft, even we know Facebook has also changed their name from Facebook to Meta. So everywhere people are investing, especially the gaming companies are also investing. On the other side, they say real estate is also coming in here. Everybody is, trying to play on this platform. But there are compatibilities between metaverses created by different companies, and compatibilities between metaverse and the real world. So I think there has to be some standards that has to be coming up to ensure we have less challenges, because the more and more complexity of each and everybody is building their own world, as we have seen how challenging it is going to integrate the systems, we will have certainly more challenges if everybody follows their own approach. So there is a need, like we have to standardize this. I think there are so many people who are working towards it. And again, coming up with a legal framework. I think most of you might have heard this example where someone stated, like, her avatar was kind of raped on the platform, and she has undergone the same trauma what she undergoes if it happens in the physical mode. So for such issues and for such scenarios, we don't have any laws available so that people can go ahead and put their concerns and get someone noticing it, and then people are also getting some punishments and so on and so forth. So creating and enforcing legal frameworks that address the various facets of metaverse will be required before it becomes huge, large, and unstoppable, and so on and so forth. So governments and countries have to sit together, have to list down really the rules and regulations, and the legal frameworks has to be coming up. Of course, there are a lot of legal aspects that are available for all the IT related aspects, which can already be implemented into this. But what I'm trying to say is there are a lot many unforeseen things, or there are a lot many things people will discover on the way, wherein the need is the government has to sit and do this regulations all around. So far, I'm talking about, the challenges when it comes to the cybersecurity as an aspect. But me working in the cybersecurity profession for more than a decade, at least, I can tell you, right? Cybersecurity is all about helping people to feel safe, and it is also about winning customers' trust. Because when I say, cybersecurity is all about helping people and feeling safe, security is not the dark thing, but this is rather this bad thing. But it is really a symbol of hope, positivity, and innovation and creativity. And it is the potential to help people feel safe in their digital lives. Because I know there are so many cybersecurity experts, professionals, and researchers are working towards the evolving of technologies like metaverse, blockchain, IoT, digital twins, XR, VR, and so on and so forth. They're also continuously working harder. They're also continuously working together as communities. There are a lot many communities. Even I am involved in so many communities where we sit together, we list down, we draft down in order to ensure we are also bringing that, positivity into that entire innovation. Otherwise, people will not be able to consume it to a larger extent with a lot of trust into it. Yeah. And I also wanted to conclude telling, of course, Metaverse is bringing new economic opportunities and enable several profound innovations of life. But taking Metaverse to masses and enterprises, the main important aspect is building trust into the technologies is the way forward. Building trust in the sense, building the right cybersecurity measures, controls, and wherein government is also coming up with the proper legal frameworks to ensure people are feeling safe and people are having hope. Like any other emerging technology comes up, yes, there is this group of cybersecurity professionals who are going to come up and really take the leap forward by providing their expertise and experience onto all these platforms. Yeah, with that, I would like to thank each of you, and I am also open to take any questions if you have any.
Thank you so much, Sailaja. We do have questions coming in the chat. So the first question is, when there is a possibility of having avatars, how identity and access management technologies will evolve?
Yeah, for example, the possibility of having avatars, yes, people can have avatars, which is exactly replicating our own features and so on and so forth. But at the same time, see, there are a lot of identity access management technologies that are evolving and they're offering so many of the features and aspects. But the main important aspect that I see in this entire equation of metaverse is also the awareness for the people who are consuming it. Let me tell you one thing, how many of us got trained to use our mobile devices? None, right? None of us got trained. Similarly, when people are venturing into something which they doesn't know, first of all, they have to know to what extent of their things they can be, letting off go. Because normally, like how we have this, features available on the platforms, like we just go and blur the back end, right? Similarly, when we are using that avatars, right, we also have some mechanisms that are already available so that people can only show certain features even on the avatar so that it cannot be replicated, even their identity cannot be lost, and so on and so forth. And even using this AI and ML technologies, right, people are also coming up with so many algorithms where they can also identify who is trying to steal the avatars, who is trying to spoof, and so on and so forth. So there is a constant evolution of methodologies and technologies around using AI, ML, blockchain, and all these mechanisms in place that are already available, and it is still evolving, as I should say.
All right. The second question is, can the concept of decentralization offer better data protection against the data manipulation and fraud?
Can you elaborate this a bit?
Can the question poser explain the question a little bit more in the chat? I don't think we're getting any details on the question. Okay, I guess we can move on. So that would be the end of the session. Thank you so much, Sailaja, for your talk. Nikita, over to you for closing comments.
Yeah, and also thanks from my side to the entire WIE chapter and also to Kumudini personally for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to share a couple of my thoughts and a couple of my work that I'm already doing in Metaverse. And yeah, thank you all and have a great day ahead.
Insightful talk.
Once again.
Thank you, ma'am, for insightful talk and helping audience understand the cybersecurity of Metaverse. We would also thank all of our speakers, Mr. Sunil, Mr. Prashant, Ms. Vashanta, and Ms. Sailaja. Now we will move on to the next section of today's program, and I will hand over the session to Mayur.
Now I would be initiating the panel discussion. In this section of the conference, we would be having the panel discussion on the topic of Metaverse, good, bad, and ugly. I would like to introduce the panel discussion moderator, Ms. Soma Pandey. Ms. Soma Pandey is a senior executive working as a AVP IoT engineer at Geo Platforms Limited in IoT devices engineering. Ms. Soma Pandey is a senior executive working as a AVP IoT engineering at Geo Platforms Limited in IoT devices engineering. Conceptualized startup in embedded systems way back in 1999 and successfully managed it as its GM for 10 years. She worked in various leadership roles across various organizations with focus on evaluating future technology trends and evaluating of embedded systems and IoT technology solutions. She is IEEE senior member with 13 plus years of association with IEEE as volunteer Execom member. Multiple IEEE conference and journal publications reviewer for various IEEE international conferences and journals. IEEE Execom for Women in Engineering Communication Society Bangalore Section. She is honored with many awards. Some of them are IEEE ComSoc Bangalore Women in Engineering Champion Award, IEEE Women in Engineering Outstanding Volunteer Gold Award by IEEE Bangalore Women in Engineering. Her motto is to save the environment. The consumer as individual or a society as whole must be motivated to consume things by need and not by greed. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Mayur, for the introduction. Very good morning. It's going to be in 1 minute. It is going to be afternoon. So very good afternoon to everyone. And special thanks to the audience who has been with us for so long. And please be with us because we are going to have a very exciting line of talks from industry experts. So the theme today's panel, the theme is Metaverse, is it good, bad or ugly? I just want to begin the discussion with two very interesting latest news. So first news was, I don't know how many of you have heard about it, that now you can actually, in Amazon Alexa, can actually speak in the voice of your relative. And the relative can even be no more, and still Alexa can speak in the voice of your relative. And there was a demo by Alexa by Amazon in which they showed that the Amazon Echo Dot was speaking in the voice of a boy's grandma. I don't know how many of you have seen this demo, but in that demo, the Amazon revealed that Alexa could soon be able to recreate everyone's voice, even if they are dead. So sounds eerie, but to some, they may want to preserve the memory of their loved ones, is what the Alexa CTO spoke. So this is one news, and the other news, very interesting one, is about Tesla. So I don't know how many of you were following it, but recently Tesla was sued And because there was this 18-year-old boy who was overspeeding and crashed into a concrete wall at 116 miles per hour. And the vehicle immediately caught fire. And if you are going at a high speed, whether it is a battery vehicle or it is a gas-powered vehicle, it is definitely going to catch fire if you are clashing or crashing into a wall or a blockade. So then when Tesla was sued, they pulled out the car data and they showed that the car was overspeeding and crossing the speed limit. So all the compensation and legalities stand null and void. Now, this is again very interesting case in which you can see that every single bit of your data is available to the car company, and in future it is going to be continuously increasing more. Like, there are plans to have minimum 4 to 5 cameras in your car, and the companies may be collecting all your data. So again, doesn't it sound a bit creepy for you, maybe the customer, but it is going to be extremely beneficial for the car manufacturers and the insurance companies. So we come back to our topic of today, Metaverse. Is it good, bad, or ugly? And let us begin this. So we have lightning talks from our esteemed panelists and industry experts. And these talks will be for 10 minutes each, and thereafter we'll open the forum for a Q&A session. I request the audience to keep posting their queries in the chat box, and I'll be following them up, and we'll take it up at the end of all our talks. So please don't forget to mention your name, affiliation, and name of the panelist to whom you're posting your question to. Thanks a lot, and sit back and enjoy for the informative talks that we have lined up for you. I invite Mayur to introduce our first panelist, Mr. Sudipta Ghosh.
Thank you, ma'am. We have our first panelist.
We can't hear you.
We have our first panelist, Sudipta Ghosh, Head Research Analytics and Patents, Wipro, a technology futurist and technology evangelist with specialty in technology strategy and IP management. Wide experience of working across industries in ICT technology areas encompassing R&D and IP management, global service delivery, international business development strategy formulation, organizational development, quality management, partner collaboration, and M&A. He is a Master of Engineering from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, and postgraduate in intellectual property law from IIT Kharagpur. He is also inventor with several patents and international papers in the ICT technology and energy management. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you for your introduction and also giving me the opportunity to speak. So I believe, Soma, we have very limited time. So I will try to present few slides today. Just give me a second. Please let me know if it is visible.
Yeah, it is visible.
Okay. So our topic today is the metaverse, good, bad, and ugly. So I will try to cover the trends or what is happening. Yeah. So what is happening in this space, and so where we are now, and then where things are heading towards. And if you don't mind, I will switch off my video for the time being.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. So let's try to address some of these questions that that typically comes to our mind. That is metaverse a replica of the real universe, right? So it may be, but it's not necessary. See, I mean, what is called mirror world, right? That means that is the replica of our world. but we can be in fantasy metaverse also. See, a person has different traits. So if you look at the first question, second question, they are very related. What does one want from the metaverse, right? So one can have different dimension of the personality, right? So, and we see that in the current society, the individualistic views are growing, and then everybody wants personalized things, right? So wisdom, personalization, and the growth of an individual, rise of an individual, that is what is happening. And then we want to do what we like, and then we also want to get some kind of benefit out of it, right? So that is what the main purpose of participation in metaverse that works for an individual. And then, like we have different profiles in social media, right? For example, LinkedIn, where it is more like a professional profile. In Facebook and many other places, we can have different purposes, right? So where we have our profiles differently. So similarly, in a metaverse also, we can have different profiles. It's not necessary. I can be a Spider-Man, or maybe a fish in the ship, this thing, undersea world, right? So things like that. And I will have my personal traits, and then some micro behaviors which are represented by my avatars, right? So these are some of the aspects. Next is whether we can trust metaverse, right? That whether my personal brand, it could be me as a person, or it can be a legal person, which is the company. That is whether the brand will be intact. The ownership of the assets that we have is not tampered with, or whether the ethical practices will be followed. Whether I will have privacy, that means there'll be no privacy issues, right? And then safety and security. So this may include data safety, security, as well as even personal safety, security, which includes safety of the avatar itself in the environment that it is operating. And then how is the technology evolving to support metaverse, right? Where we are and where it's heading towards. How is the industry adoption trend, where things are getting implemented, and the relevant standards, regulation, and legal framework. How they're evolving. So I have three slides for doing this. So let me tell you that what we see right now, we can see different kind of approaches towards metaverse. So typically that multiplayer, massive multiplayer, that the gaming platforms, right? Those companies, they are venturing into metaverse. Then digital twin kinds of companies, they're also venturing into metaverse. And then pure play metaverse companies, they're also getting into it. But for that, a multiplayer game playing organization, it is easier at the beginning, because they have some platform already ready to extend it to metaverse platform. And digital twins, companies, they are also trying to expand the digital twin. So from a device to a space, and then to the to a maybe a smart city, and to a larger thing. It could be a larger universe, right? So that is where things are going. The problem is with pure play, this thing, metaverse players, where there's nothing. So they are building from scratch. So that is where things are becoming challenging. And we are saying that success and failures. But if you refer to the right-hand side picture, and if we read from, that bottom to top. So right now we are at the bottom. That is, we have XR, app, which is giving a metaverse kind of feel. That means these are applications which are specific use case which are implemented. For example, a gaming app, right? It can be a particular type of purpose that I'm playing a game, or maybe a training application. But it's not a generalized platform that or the metaverse operation, right? So, and they're not in a metaverse, true metaverse shape. It is still not aggregated fully. So next phase, what we can see is that isolated miniverses. So that means these are individual metaverses, we can call them, but they're not representing the universe, but maybe miniverses, that is smaller universes, and they're still isolated. And next could be fully interconnected miniverses. So they are still separate, but there are some interoperability. And then the end game would be something like a fully operational metaverse where it is I mean, completely distributed and then fully integrated, and then I mean, things can work on their own. And now, if you see that the technology level, so the user devices which are used for interaction, right, and then also the sensing and multimodal inputs, I mean, to work. So these technologies are evolving, although some of the technologies are already there, but for example, the devices required for those, you have already this thing heard our previous speakers also mentioned about it. That is one. Second thing is whether as a user I would want to wear so many devices, right? For example, I would wear a headgear, then I will have some gloves or maybe haptic shoot, right? So whether this is really useful or whether it is usable by individual user while doing other things. So what would be a good device, right, that will provide a very realistic interaction with the metaverse? So that is yet to come, but still the devices are getting better now so that people can use them, but they are still not affordable, or maybe it's not fully integrated. So for multimodal input, then we have the air cloud, which is called spatial computing. So that is required because we are talking about a universe, right? So where things needs to be mapped, and in the virtual space, it could be real versus virtual space, or maybe purely virtual space mapping also. And then the XR based, I mean, that operations that people can feel, and things are provided to the experiences that those are provided to the user. Content is one of the most important things, where the avatar creation, then scene formation, it could be directing. For example, whether for a new I mean, metaverse that I want to start in a platform, how can I create so much of content? I may not be equipped to do so, right? So whether one can direct it, so that is so that I can narrate, and then it will be created on my own, right? It's just like a movie director. And then this content or scene rendering, that is another one of the most important aspects, including that view synchronization and all, when there is a multiple party interaction in the metaverse. Communication is another aspect, because the massive data exchange, and for example, for haptics, the kind of that latency that you need, right, to go to the internet or the network where the processing is happening, main processing is happening, versus the scene rendering that may take a little bit more time. And then it will require a lot of edge computing, maybe edge, I mean, data centers, some localization, and many other things. So, I mean, this is going to be endless infrastructure, not only technology, but technology infrastructure that is required for so much of vast. So everything needs to be very fast, sensitive, user-centric, and then it will have huge amount of data to be, I mean, back and forth. So that is one of the requirements. At the ecosystem level, there are other issues, like, for example, current metaverses that we call them. So those are, I mean, controlled by companies, individual companies, right? So for example, if you have a virtual estate and you have a token, but you are bound by the user agreement with that platform. So you have purchased something, but it is not yours, because tomorrow your user access may be cancelled. So you lost your property, right? So whichever you have purchased. So those are some of the other issues which is there. So that's why it requires a DAO, the decentralized organization, right? And it should be interconnected and interoperated. So that is where things will move to, because DAO is still not supported in the legal framework. And as a company, right, you cannot have a DAO company right now. So that needs to be, brought in. Technology standards, from the minimal, it has to be comprehensive, because right now we are talking about W3C, and also some of the other related standards like DeFi, asset tokenization, DID, which is the distributed ID, and then DAO as mentioned. And then there are privacy security standards which are existing, but they needs to be extended and aggregated together to make a comprehensive standard, so that it will be interoperable. So there are standard forums and bodies that those are getting created, and then, but it's still initial stages of that. Legal and regulatory framework is yet to evolve. So there are some existing provisions which will be useful, but still there are many other things which will require to be this thing, because there are things like jurisdiction, IPR related issues. One of the speakers mentioned about that. Digital asset ownership, I mentioned about that. And then incidents can be, criminal, or maybe this thing, civil in nature, and a lot of things can happen. So I will get into the next one in the interest of time. If you have specific questions, please, you can ask during the question answer time. Industry adoption, what we see that media and entertainment companies, including gaming, so that's a more penetration right now. Next is consumer retail, where it is already, because AR, VR applications were already there. So they are getting extended to Metaverse. And manufacturing, it is getting more into digital twin mode, and then co-working and that kind of stuff. So education and training is also another area where things are already present, which is more like a gamified education and training and things like that, are also with immersive experience. Next, which we can see that is evolving, is sports and games, and then also smart city, because smart city requires a lot of investment. So the time periods are longer, but things have already started a couple of years back in Europe, and then in Japan, Korea, China, and many other countries. So the smart, virtual reality kind of applications. Automotive also, but they are actually a little bit more manufacturer-centric, or the OEM-centric rather than consumer-centric. So where like simulated design, and then post-manufacturing simulation kind of this thing. So even end-to-end simulation is also there. Energy utilities, we can see that infrastructure monitoring. Construction also is a monitoring kind of this thing, which we can see, or even planning stage. Travel tourism also getting, but they're in a dilemma. Because the economic model is not right. Apparently, but things are coming there also. And then most of the use cases that we can see is brand promotion or brand influence, then retail purchasing, and then gaming. Because this immersive retail, for example, you don't not only want to purchase an item, but the moment you go or express interest towards that, it will tell you whether it's suitable for you, or what hazards can happen, what is the current state of that material, right? If it is perishable and things like that. So that will also be this thing. Or even for wearables, the garments, you can have the trial on and things like that, right? So virtual try on. So those kind of things. Then the live events, conferences, music, this thing also, what we can see, that music events, digital asset trading, meetings are into the enterprise space, and then also many other social networking space we can see that is getting traction. Modeling and simulation, this manufacturing and automotive, this, as I mentioned to you. Operation maintenance, this is also for manufacturing as well as energy utilities. We can see even hospitality industry. Customer or citizen service, this is coming into the service industry as well as for the smart cities, what we can see. Virtual travel for travel, and then or tourism also. Play, participate to earn. So this is the economic part of it. That is the events, how do you participate and earn, right? So those kind of things, because everybody wants to, it's like a social media. That is, if you have a, that metaverse created for a particular purpose, like for example, sustainability or social entrepreneurship, right? How can one learn, earn from that while doing the work, right? Or maybe participating into something. So those are also getting traction. And the last one is, not industry adoption. I think the title is wrong. It should be the key aspects that we need to talk about. So metaverse has enormous possibilities. You can see that one can get into multiple universes and to express their liberty, have their liberty or persona, different persona expressed, and also have different state of people or maybe the communities, built around them. And then technology needs to mature. Infrastructure and devices. Infrastructure, it requires a massive infrastructure. And then devices should be usable and affordable, right? So that is, I think many speakers also mentioned that. Interoperability and portability is key, because without that, it will not be a real universe. It will still remain as isolated this thing. And then in DAO situation, say, for example, I buy some digital, article in one metaverse, and then I want to carry it to the other metaverse, and maybe I want to sell it, right? Or I want to use it for a purpose. So that should be possible. And then content is the king, because it requires a huge content, as I mentioned, that there should be for avatar creation, for the scene, or even for digital items that I create. So I can be, suppose, a good creator, but I cannot express. For example, I cannot paint, for example, right? So how do I create the content? So those kind of things needs to be taken care of, because it requires a huge amount of content for immersive experience for anything that we do. And quality of good data versus synthetic data, because we have privacy issues and other things. So there will be enormous amount of data generated, but how much you can use for personalization, hyper personalization, that we call it, or a realistic scene generation, or this view synchronization, and many other things, like. And also for avatar behavior, this thing. For example, when I am sleeping, whether my avatar is also sleeping, right? Or it is behaving independently. So there are, cybersecurity. I would not say cybersecurity. There are legal implications as well. As these are some of the questions need to be asked, and then those behaviors, the micro behaviors, needs to be trained into the AI models. So and for that, it will require good amount of personal data, which is prohibited. So how do you train it, right? So how do you get good data, and then how do you generate synthetic data to substitute that in case it's not available? So these are some of the key points. I will stop with that. Thank you for bearing with me, and Soma, you can continue.
Thanks a lot, Sudipta, for the very interesting talk on approaches to Metaverse, its technology and ecosystem. I invite Mayur to introduce our next speaker, Mr. Venkateshwaran Sundareswaran. I request all the panelists to please try to keep the talk for 10 minutes because we have time only up till 1 p.m. So thank you so much. Mayur, to you, please.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We have our second panelist. Just ma'am, am I audible?
Oh yes, very much. Yeah.
We have our second panelist, Venkateshwaran Sundareswaran, Global Head, Digital Marketing and Emerging Digital Solutions, Mindtree.
Mayur?
Yes, ma'am.
You're not sharing your screen.
Just a minute, ma'am. I hope now it's perfect, ma'am.
We can see.
We have our second panelist, Venkateshwaran Sundareswaran, Global Head, Digital Marketing and Emerging Digital Solutions, Mindtree. Seasoned technologist with 26 plus years in the IT industry, helping clients achieve business transformation through offerings, platforms, solutions. Currently working as Global Head for Digital Marketing and Emerging Digital Solutions Group in Mindtree, driven by innovation, embracing the latest technology areas. Prior to Mindtree, he has spent 10 years in Infosys, leading some very exciting innovations, programs, and platforms. He believes as the convergence of physical and virtual worlds is accelerating, multimodal experiences are fundamentally reshaping engagements and experiences across all touchpoints. Technologies like AI, conversational platforms, immersive tech, blockchain are at forefront of bringing these experiences to life and thereby helping discover and unlock new possibilities. Over to you, sir. Sir?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, let me just share my
I think
screen.
you need to stop sharing and maybe sir can begin his slide share if he has the slides.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so thanks. So topic of the day is good, bad, or ugly in terms of metaverse. Probably all three, like any other technology or anything else in life. But I'll keep it very simple and light. So what's the good part about it? I think a lot of good stuff when we talk about metaverse, right? Going on a vacation, imagining whatever you want to imagine. So it's all about imagination in the new world of metaverse. Jokes apart, what it really means, like we as a user, as a consumer, I think it will shape our life very differently, whether we are going for shopping, whether we are working with co-workers, whether we are talking about colleges, schools, how training is going to be conducted, how education is going to be conducted, how industry 4.0. I think all people spoke about different use cases. It's left to our imagination. Probably the lingo itself will change, saying that instead of going to the mall, we are going to bring the mall to the house, right? That's how it's going to shape. And not only experiences, but also I think a lot of social benefits also in some of these technologies, like mental health training. I think these are already being done today, but more and more, I think it will get more pervasive in terms of what we see the possibilities. So very exciting. It is left to imagination. We are changing from a 2D canvas to a 3D canvas. We are changing from a very static environments to a very interactive environments. Everything is coming to life as we speak. What we saw as movie fiction is really what is coming to reality over a period of time. And if holograms and 5G and etc. come, you probably will have see all that what we are seeing in movies today, whether it's Marvel or anything else, right, coming to life as well. So extremely exciting, extremely useful if you think about it positively and how to kind of use this very effectively to change our life. The way I see it, it is actually reshaping how humans are going to be evolving over a period of time. So this is the good aspect, very good aspect, a lot of exciting stuff which is happening. Like with any technology, right? I think there are two aspects to that technology. On the left-hand side, like you see, it is not the real use case for metaverse, right? It is about how we use it effectively and not know where not to use such technologies. On the right-hand side, I think people spoke about it as well, right? Whether it is data privacy, whether it is your personal data, how it is getting used, whether it is your personal space in the metaverse, whether there's a lot of legal complications coming in. And I'm sure you would have heard, I think Soma spoke about the Alexa thing. You would have also heard a lot about transhuman consciousness getting transferred, transhumanism as they call it, where you're transferring the consciousness onto the metaverse. Creepy, but a lot of ethical questions are getting raised in terms of how metaverse is going to evolve as well, right? So bad in a sense that it could be misused, but I think a lot of opportunities to work in this space to create guardrails, create the governance, the framework around how we are going to manage this metaverse as we evolve in this space. Last but not the least, the ugly part of it, like I said, today the picture on the left-hand side, you will typically see in mobile phones in everybody's hand when we are having a meeting or a get-together. It will be changed by a headset probably if it evolves over a period of time. And over a period of time also, you'll see how human evolution is going to change. It's about 6 to 7 hours of digital life that we have today and 8 hours of sleep. So hardly much life left for social interaction, which is very key to human evolution, right? And human mental health. We're going to see that change even further, given the metaverse is even more immersive, a lot more time being spent. What it really means for mental health in a longer run, I think that is a subject of debate and discussion. Again, how do you put guardrails to ensure that people don't spend too much of time on the metaverse, use it effectively, at the same time, have enough evolution of detoxification kind of offerings that we want, detox from this environment, and how we evolve over a period of time. It's a combination of all three. The ugly part is really, what we cannot control. It has to be controlled individually. Ugly part may be even a minuscule percentage of the population, like in every technology, but it could also have a significant impact. So we can't just ignore that as we go along. So we need to kind of keep it in our radar. So in summary, is it good, bad, or ugly? It's a combination of all three. I would say super good in terms of what we could use it, the type of use cases, the type of experiences, the type of benefits that it can bring to the society. Bad is where we have to watch out and make sure that we put enough guardrails. I think all the earlier participants spoke about what are the different things that we need to do in that space. And the ugly is what we need to watch out for and make sure that as a society, we are enabling ourselves to make sure that we adopt this technology effectively, efficiently, as well as in a very safe mode. So Soma, I think that's all I had very briefly in terms of what is good, bad, and ugly. Any questions? Happy to answer. Otherwise, you could probably ask the next participant.
So thanks a lot, Mr. Venkateshwaran, for the thoughts on metaverse, good, bad, and ugly. Yes, I agree. We have to still wait and watch and see that how it shapes up in future. And I feel that what we perceive is going to become. So let us hope for the best and work for the best. And with this very nice thought, I feel I'll invite Mayur. Please introduce our next panelist, Dr. Shankar Venugopal.
Yes, ma'am. We have our next panelist, Dr. Shankar Venugopal, Vice President at Mahindra & Mahindra, seasoned leader translating technology ideas into product innovations with focus on sustainable urban mobility solutions, holding PhD from IISc and management from IIM Bombay, strong track record in managing global cross-functional teams, materials innovation. He is the co-inventor in 20 issued international patents and 6 Indian patents and recipient of Prolific Inventor Award 2022 at Mahindra. He developed a proprietary systematic innovation method, innovation flow, and coached 2000 plus innovators. He's a TEDx speaker and a keynote speaker in innovation and mobility conferences. He's mentoring engineering students from India, Singapore, Australia, and Israel. He enjoys working at the interference of technology and management. Over to you, sir.
Hey, thanks, Mayur. By the way, IIM Bangalore. There is no IIM in Bombay yet. Hopefully, it will come soon. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Vince, for this opportunity to be part of this interesting discussion on metaverse. I'm from the automotive space. I work at the Mahindra Research Valley, leading innovations for the automotive and farm space. And a lot of what I got to say on metaverse will be from the automotive industry perspective, and I'll keep it very short. So primarily what we are going through in the automotive space is disruptions, technology disruptions, in the form of the transition from the and what comes along with electric smart and connected technologies, and also the autonomous features that comes in. This is all from the disruptions from the technology perspective. But what is also happening from the business model perspective is the shared mobility and subscription-based models, a whole bunch of new ways in which we can use a vehicle for mobility. So when I look at metaverse from this space, I see metaverse as a convergence of multiple technologies. One is the Web 3.0. The second is the AR, VR, a whole bunch of evolving technologies broadly under the XR category. And then also the 5G, which is so timely, because if the 5G communication, the high-speed communication that it's going to enable is going to make Metaverse a lot more accessible to all of us. So Metaverse is truly at the convergence of multiple technologies. That's a good part of it because each of these technologies is growing exponentially. And when we are looking at the convergence of multiple exponential technologies, we are talking about Metaverse not in the far future, but here and now. Today, it may look like some of the applications that we talk about are little futuristic, but it can happen before you realize. It can happen maybe even within a few months or within a year's time frame, because such a speed at which technology is growing and also the cost of technology is falling. So when we talk about anything on the metaverse, we should keep this in mind that it's going to happen much earlier than what even the best of best experts can predict. So that's what makes Metaverse so exciting for us from the automotive space too. We can look at Metaverse in terms of accelerating new product development. For example, at Mahindra, we have announced the launch of 5 new electric vehicles over the next 2 to 3 years time frame. So how can we use Metaverse to drive collaboration and accelerate the development of new products? It is not just ideation of new ideas and concepts, but also prototyping and testing this, and also getting feedback from our customers on what they like and what they don't like. A virtual environment that the metaverse brings in greatly enables all of this, and we expect this to greatly accelerate the time that it takes for us to churn out new products, especially at the convergence of technologies like electric, connected, and autonomous. So this is a very big thing for us because we need to visualize multiple scenarios and then optimize the performance of vehicles. And also our teams are globally distributed. So Metaverse actually allows all these teams, wherever they are, to stay very close and work together to build products with the cutting edge technologies. So this is something very, very important for us. And this is the tip of the iceberg, what we can do with Metaverse for the new product development. There are a lot more things that one can do in terms of getting closer to the customers, connecting with them, understanding their pain points, and also giving them a virtual experience of the new offering that we got. A customer can actually virtually drive the vehicle and give us very precise feedback as to what you'd like to improve versus what is already happy with. All this will actually greatly accelerate the number of iterations we go through to put any new product. And also, from a sustainability perspective, it's very important for us to imagine, visualize future scenarios and make sure that the design of the vehicles, not just the product, but the entire mobility ecosystem around this are conducive from a sustainability perspective. Here again, we are able to leverage the power of metaverse to model multiple future scenarios and make sure that what we are doing is definitely taking us one step towards a sustainable mobility solution going forward. This is yet another space where metaverse is helping us. And one thing that we need to keep in mind in terms of what can be bad is the time that is available for us to learn and do the POCs and get into real-time deployment is very less. So the bad part is we don't have sufficient time. So we have to prioritize this over many other things that we do so that we quickly reskill ourselves in the various technology building blocks that goes into metaverse so that we'll be able to run some quick POCs and really derive the benefit from this powerful technology. So that's a bad part, but that there is very less time for us to do. We have to do it very, very quickly. The ugly part, I'm not so much worried because today we are so used to an incremental world where things are linear and takes a long time to change. We are not able to visualize what an exponential world would look like, where things are developing so fast and they are converging to really even make some of the things that we think as impossible possible. So we are not really used to this kind of exponential thinking mode. We are so used to incremental and linear thinking. So this ugly part, which looks ugly today, may really turn around and become something very positive if you're able to switch from a linear incremental thinking mode to an exponential nonlinear mode, which truly metaverse allows you because it's the convergence of multiple technologies. So when we do that, I'm sure we'll be able to convert the ugly also into something very positive. So I am not an expert in metaverse, but I've been actively learning and I've been talking to a lot of experts, which gives me this confidence that metaverse can do a lot of good things for us going forward. And the only thing we need to do is prioritize learning, doing proof of concepts, and ideating around possible use cases of metaverse in our own domains. That is the top priority. I think if we do this, I think we'll be able to get the maximum benefit from metaverse. So with this, I'd like to wrap up and wait for any questions the audience may have.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Shankar, for the thought-provoking and inspiring talk on applying metaverse in automotive domain and how the good, bad, and ugly can be perceived in automotive world. As far as I am concerned and the automotive domain is concerned, I hope that maybe one day, if it is metaverse, I'll learn to reverse my car because maybe that is one thing I look forward to in the metaverse domain. Thanks for the talk.
No,
Yes.
metaverse can definitely help us to learn, train ourselves faster, which will include reverse parking. And I think I also struggle with that. I'm sure we can easily manage that going forward. Sure.
Thanks.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And next, I request Mayur to please introduce our panelist, Mr. Rohit Srivastava.
Yes, ma'am. Now we have our panelist, Rohit Srivastava, founder of Bharatverse. He has 20 years of experience with focus on the domain of information security and Web3. He is the serial entrepreneur, recipient of Microsoft Most Valuable Professional Award in the domain of enterprise security, and a multifaceted professional with experience in cybersecurity, enterprise security, security digital transformation, and cyber warfare. He is actively involved in advising several military agencies, law enforcement, corporate and government bodies of different countries in these fields. Over to you, sir.
Hey, thanks, Mayur. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yes.
Great. Thanks a lot. I'll just quickly initiate the presentation and save on to the time. So thanks to IEEE for inviting me here and giving this chance to interact with you all on this interesting topic of metaverse. Just give me a thumbs up if you can see the screen so that I can take it ahead from here. Okay, great. So we spoke about the topic of metaverse, and right now, the way the introduction said, it sounded like I have a 20-year of experience in Web3 as well. Interestingly, the Web3 is not 20 years, just 20 months, but yeah, information security has been more than 20 years. So I'm trying to understand the relationship in both, and while creating this metaverse for us, which is called as Bharatverse. So Bharatverse, the concept is to create a metaverse for Bharat, for the people in India, and focusing on travel and tourism. So that's one of the use case which we are talking about, that, okay, if someone is not in a position to travel to a location, or if due to various reasons, it could be traveling issues, it could be physical issues, or it could be placed in different parts of the world and want to explore the world, or want to explore India for the matter. So there should be a metaverse, and that's one of the use case which we have picked up and working on. That's Bharat Ka Metaverse or Bharatverse, which we are doing. I'll come to the main topic, that what the hell is metaverse, and that's what the most important aspect, because everyone has an interesting definition of this whole domain called as metaverse. So we said let's look at it closely, that what is metaverse, I saw that someone has already covered about the book Snow Crash. So if you have not read, go ahead and read this book, an old but genuine piece of work which you can see and understand what a metaverse is. If you have not seen, go ahead, watch this movie as well. And a lot of people in different places and conferences talk about Ready Player One as a book or as a movie to be seen to understand metaverse. But I will feel the metaverse complete and ready the day we get to a scenario like this. Amazon Prime has a web series called as Upload, season 1 and season 2. Watch it and then you would realize that, oh, is that what the real metaverse could be, including your IoTs, the sensors, the virtual reality being present there, the artificial intelligence, the photorealism, everything is bundled into one of this show. Very interesting series on the metaverses. And when we're talking about the good, bad, and ugly, the good part is the use case. There are very interesting use cases which are there. And for me, the travel and tourism is one of the use cases which I'm really excited about. There are other interesting use cases also. But the bad and ugly is coming in from more challenges and threats. So I'll initiate with the threat first. As Gartner is being referred as the initial one organization who can give a very good definition for everything. Gartner's definition was to create a virtual space and convert the reality to the virtuality. And I had a lot of conversations here, but my previous speaker, Prashant, has given a very, very interesting view of all, and I'm sure everybody has understood the reality or the use cases of it. So I'll skip this one. And we will talk about the security issues in metaverse, which are the threats. So I think Shalja spoke about the traditional IT issues which we'll be going to face in the metaverse domain, which are like typical use of hardware and software and other stuff. But there are a lot of other issues as well. We are talking about NFTs and smart contracts. Where is the smartness coming in from? The smartness is coming in from the same human who is coding it. So ultimately, a smart contract is as dumb contract as smart the TV is and as dumb the smart TV is. That possibility is always there and will remain. That vulnerability will always remain. We have seen a lot of interesting attacks happening on metaverses with the NFTs. One of the interesting threats in the metaverse domain is the dark web. The dark web alternate of metaverse. There are a lot of clandestine crimes are happening and have started happening and will evolve further. The financial frauds are something which would be very, very interesting to watch out for in this area, because frankly, we have all jumped over to the UPI and the different interfaces using PhonePe, Paytm, Google Pay and all, where people, the end user, are not aware enough and falling for a lot of issues. So those kind of issues will always be there, and with metaverse coming in, I'm sure very soon, even with the CBDC coming in, we will see a variety of interesting attacks or frauds happening on that line. I'll take it quickly on the privacy front. People are collecting data. Sudipta talked about how large enterprises are collecting a lot of data and using it for their benefit. That will even increase because the number of sensors will now increase and we will be having those kind of issues coming up. Plus, because of the cyber physical connectivity, and this time the cyber physical connectivity is to the human being directly, a lot of such threats would be visible. Few days ago, or the last month itself, Economic Times came up with a very interesting article about the possibilities of metaverse and the security concerns. Their primary concerns were around the rug pulls and the frauds which are happening on metaverse, which denotes everything as a Ponzi scheme. And remember, that thing will always be there because everybody is capitalizing on the gullible nature of the human being to gain a lot of profit suddenly and make a lot of money. And interestingly, we have seen that in Web3, a lot of people have made a lot of money in a very short span of time. So that creates that greed or hunger, and that actually give rise to a lot of rug pulls and other frauds which are happening there. There are a few more Web3 threats, not specifically to a metaverse, but all towards the Web3 domain, which could be the supply chain issues, which could be the wallet safety, the custodian and non-custodian wallet. There are a lot of these topics which are not known to a common man. So it's like, I am keeping money in a wallet and the wallet's passwords are with someone else. As long as you trust that person, it is fine. But that trust is somewhere in a gray zone the moment that is more open to world. And that's where these kind of problems will come in. And people would have to be really careful with a lot of awareness aspects in Web3 security, which we are doing. But if we consider that, okay, there are a lot of people who are working on the ugly part of it and making it from ugly towards betterment and bringing safety, we end up with the challenges which are more of the bad part or not so very happy part of it, that the tech itself is a very, very nascent stage. People are talking about virtual reality. If you have experienced virtual reality, you will see that, okay, it is still far off from the real reality. And that will take a lot of time. The tech is still evolving. Everybody is using this for gamification and gaming nature. And that's okay. That's a good thing to have. But the real use cases have to get evolved. And that's why we are trying on one of the real use cases of travel and tourism here. The third challenges which I feel is these devices like the Oculus and the other stuff. These are pretty heavy. They are pretty bulky. And people are talking about virtual meetings in metaverses. If you have a device, try it on your head for an hour. And after 1 hour of meeting, you realize that had it been a video call, you would be more productive in that particular meeting. Just to get that feeling at that, oh, everybody is in immersive environment, the fab value is increasing high and the actual use cases is reducing because of these challenges which we are facing right now. That's all from the presentation point of view. I am doing a lot of work on the metaverse and doing a lot of work on security as well. This is one of the books I published during COVID period on mobile and application and desktop and laptop security. I am now looking more towards bringing people onto the metaverse security as well, which will help. And looks like we have some time in hand. So let me quickly take you through a journey. What I'll do is I'll put on my headset and I'll show you one sample of the use case which we have developed. I'll share the screen so that you can see it parallelly when I'm sharing it here. Let me just quickly cast this onto the screen and see that you have the visibility. So when we talk about the travel and tourism and experiences, this is one of the examples where we can actually take you through a virtual museum and show you how a virtual museum can actually be explored in a VR mode. I'm sure you can see the screen now, and if not, just give me a buzz.
We can. Please continue.
So this is so you can see on the camera the way I will be moving on my chair. I'm on my right and looking up, and that's the name of the museum, Raja Bintar Kelkar Museum. Interesting aspect with this particular museum is that the metaverse content was created with support of IEEE directly. Now with this, I can actually travel inside the museum, look around, and look at the statues and the artifacts. Like this is the statue of Vijay. There's the statue of Lakshman. If I come back, I can see a statue of Lord Ram. I can take my own flexibility and move around and enjoy and explore the place in the virtual reality. Like if you can see, there is an elephant artifact around here. And I want to see it from the other side. I can actually go on to the other side and look at the elephant from here. These kind of experiences is something which is possible for people to travel in the virtual world and go to different places and enjoy. Like if you see, these are some of the weapons combined with jewelry aspect, which is there in the museum, the artifact is there. If you look at these, the real jewelry which is actually present in that museum. But now in the virtual world, what we can do is we can experience them and look at those. Being in South India, you would be very popularly aware about this creature called as Yali, which is there in most of the temples. So you can come and you can see the information about Bali and other stuff. So these are the way an experience of a place can be converted into a metaverse, and someone sitting at home can actually bring it out and show you the world. And that's the kind of experience we are trying to build out in the whole metaverse, so to say, that people sitting back at their home should be able to enjoy and see different places, walk around the country, and look at the aspects. That's all from my side. If you have any question, I'll be happy to take it on security, on the use cases, or even the protected. Thank you. Thanks. Over to you.
Thanks a lot, Rohit, for letting us know about your work in Bharatverse and how to conceptualize ideas from our Indian perspective, and the amazing tour that you gave just now. And trust me, the video quality was really very good quality, high quality video experience. Loved it. What was the museum name, by the way? I missed it, or maybe.
So if you're in Pune, you can visit this museum. It's called as Raja Dinkar Kelkar Museum.
Oh, okay.
You can send me a note. We have just onboarded it onto the Metaverse. I can send you the Metaverse link and you can enjoy it on the Oculus kind of a class.
So nice of you. Of course, I will like to go through it. Like sitting at home, if I can see this as such an amazing museum, why not? Of course.
That's the benefit of Metaverse we are talking about. That's a good part of the Metaverse we are talking about.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I completely agree. So with this, we come to end of our lightning talks, and I open the panel to the audience to take in the question and answers. So request the audience to keep posting their their questions. Meanwhile, one question has just come in for, I think, Mr. Sudipta. Yeah, so the question is from Supriya. And she's asked to you, Sudipta, how Metaverse will help remote cities of India, because you had spoken about smart cities and all in your talk. So this is like how Metaverse will help remote cities of India, where access to basic technology itself is limited.
Right. So what I can see is for the smaller cities, let's call it, where the accessibility is limited. So the user device can still be the smartphone, and then with 5G, penetration. So it is going to be, interaction is going to be much smoother. And the use case which will be most useful would be the citizen service, right? For example, instead of going to a government office, so in the metaverse, one can meet the relevant person who can help with a particular service that is required, right, by the citizen. That is one we can see. Next one is just to understand and go through some places of interesting where interesting things are happening, right? It's virtual live events and things like that. Say meeting with friends maybe who may not be from that particular city. So virtual meetings. So these are some of the things I can see, but it is difficult to say because the technology and the device restrictions right now that we have.
So I hear that maybe if the satellite technology is in place, then we can provide blanket coverage to the entire country, even small villages. But yeah.
But with 5G, at least a good amount of connectivity will be there with the mobile devices. Even now it is there. You will see that everybody watches television on mobile phones rather than anything else. Or even without having personal devices, there can be, large number of distributed kiosks where a person can go in, and then it can be a studio-like situation, small studio, right, where one can interact.
Yes, that's a good idea. So thanks for the answer. Another query, so I can post it to Dr. Shankar. So there are regulatory bodies looking into limiting use case for which, this is from Supriya, are regulatory bodies looking into limiting use case for which across the globe metaverse can be applied, be limited, like supply chain, healthcare, etc. Dr. Shankar, are you there? Okay, I put it across to the generic panel, Mr. Venkatesh and Rohit or Sudipta ji, anyone. Can you take up this question? Because it is general, it's just asked generically to the panel.
I'll take a stab at that, Soma. We have not heard any such activity right now that the regulatory bodies are trying to limit things. But at the same time, the possibilities have to be taken up by other companies as a challenge. So we heard about use of metaverse in water conservation and water supplies. That's something, an interesting use case. So use cases have to be evolved and brought ahead by entrepreneurs and large enterprises themselves. So that how well can we actually utilize it? That's something which is to be seen. We are not seeing any regulations on metaverse right now that what can be done and what cannot be done. Just touching upon the previous question of remote cities, there are two parts. We were living in a time when there was zero connectivity in the rural area. From there, we have reached to a time where everybody in the villages also has started accessing UPI, and the payment and mobile phone penetration has increased.
Yes.
And thanks to LTE, it worked much better. Now with 5G, the bandwidth and other stuff will increase. The point is, let's not put everything into metaverse. Maybe metaverse may not be of more than 1% use case in the rural scenario. It could be for only certain things, like the villagers trying to learn how to fix their tractor over a metaverse. So number of devices utility would be less. But currently, we are living in a time when the connectivity itself is needed in the remote villages for a lot of other stuff. As I said, in a meeting, you don't need to be a virtual meeting always. Even if it is a video call like this one, which is happening, it is fine. We are talking to people, we are interacting with people. Bring metaverse only when you have a requirement of an immersive experience. And that's where it can be brought in.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks for that insight. There is one more question from Mayur. So he's asking how AI, AR, and VR, metaverse are all related. This is a question from Mayur.
So Mayur, metaverse is a bigger term. All of these are underlying tech which would be required. You would require a lot of artificial intelligence for the metaverse to run. You would require AR and VR functionalities to run. Metaverse, consider it as a use case coming out of it, or a platform coming out of use of these technologies. What you saw right now as a demo of Bharatverse was a VR. It's not a metaverse. Metaverse, it will be complete metaverse when there is a interactivity added, where you wear a glass, I wear a glass, both of us are there together, looking at the real stuff and still talking to each other. That's the kind of metaverse experience we are trying to bring in, and that's a metaverse experience. Till that time, it is VR. But yes, bringing everything together can be the option. And these technologies are basically for, okay, thanks. So Nikita, these are the basically underlying tech for the metaverse to work. A metaverse will require all of these to work, plus all the rendering and gaming and other stuff.
Thank you. Thanks for the reply, Rohit. So one last question to Mr. Venkateshwaran. Mr. Venkateshwaran, you are heading the digital marketing and emerging digital solutions domain in Mindtree. And I see a lot of traction happening on customer experience and the shape it is going to take up in metaverse. So will you like to share your thoughts on this?
Yeah, there are a lot of traction happening from a customer experience. So I talked about few use cases, and anybody who wants to pick up, right? There are a lot of opportunities. Like Rohit was explaining, there are multiple technologies at play to bring a metaverse experience together, be it AI, be it AR, VR, be it blockchain, be it IoT. There's so many things that all come together to make that experience happen. The building block could be starting with as simple as a lot of open source platforms where you can build a 3D canvas and an interaction. It could be as simple as building an AR experience or a VR experience. I think you could start with some of those building blocks and then build on the technology as you evolve into more complex use cases that you can build on the metaverse. For example, if you work on Unity, for example, as a platform, that could be a very simple start for most of the developers, or AR Core or AR Kit kind of experience. There's the structured program is created when we have what we do in Mindtree to ramp them up right from basic coding skills, which is your C#, etc., to actually building on these platforms. I think that is where you should start. And if you go to some of these sites like Unity, they already have projects which will help you to do your basic projects, like the typical Hello World that you had in Java. You'll have a lot of these projects already created where you can do some self-development as well.
Yeah, thanks for this, giving us these new ideas. With this, I just thought one last question, if I can take up. Do we have time, Supriya?
Yeah, ma'am, we can take. Yeah.
So one last question to Mr. Rohit. So Mr. Rohit, I am in Geo, and we have this motto that technology should be such that it is beneficial and affordable for us Indians. So that has always been the motto for Geo. So in this regard, even I see Bharatverse that you're working on is in the same direction. And but as you know, when we had to create a telecom network for for Indians, by Indians, to Indians. So there are a lot of challenges that we need to work upon. So can you throw some more light on what challenges you faced when you are adapting for Indian scenario?
See, Bharatverse is my 4th startup. I have done 3 before then. And when you create a startup, your first objective is about what is my revenue model? How am I going to generate money? And I'm bringing it back from the Geo's experience directly, that when Geo started, and thanks to Geo, they brought the data connectivity, faster, affordable connectivity to a lot of places. They figured out, or Mr. Mani figured out the right way of monetizing it and still making out decent out of it. The challenges which we are facing, that, okay, what is the way we could be monetizing it? But again, we are deferring it for some time. The first idea is to bring it out and let people experience it. Let people start using it. Let them realize that, okay, these are the possibilities, and let them reap the benefit. Monetization is something which is difficult, and it can come on later on. But that's not the only challenge. The challenges which we are facing right now are more of the technology evolvement. The tech is not ready. However, we may say, and we may see 10 billion being invested by Mark Zuckerberg into the stuff and happening.
Yeah.
The reality is still far.
Yes.
Good quality and usable metaverse at an affordable price is far off right now. We looked at the Tesseract project Geo got into and called Geo Glass. Even there, the quality is a matter of worry right now. It may not be a real use case supporting, but yes, at least work is moving on. So as with any evolving tech, this is still in a very, very nascent stage. A lot of upgrades, updates, and enhancement of the technology will be used. But till that time, it's up to us and the people to create the experiences, create the use cases of it. And that's what I do. Even during my training program, I've been doing a lot of metaverse training for people, large enterprises, that how can they onboard and how can they start making metaverses. So even in that, we speak about that, okay, earlier when the web started, remember Web 1, the Yahoo GeoCities websites, the ugly looking stuff. From there, we have come to Web 2, which is very beautiful looking. So similar thing will happen in this domain as well. Initially, things would be edgy, it will be rough, but slowly with evolvement of technology, we will reach to a very interesting aspect. So let's bear with it. Let's start working on making it better from here, and then time will itself show that how people have evolved on any technology. So again, these would be evolving and bringing out a real good outcome which people will start enjoying in the right way.
So actually, what you say is 100% correct. It takes a lot of effort to adapt to various different scenarios and different situations. In fact, though it is not very relevant to this, but just in context of, when we are adapting to new technologies, how much effort one has to take in that direction. Just one small point I wanted to let you know that when Jio launched its 5G network, 4G network, it was at that time most of the other, it was the first greenfield network. Like 5G, Jio is a greenfield operator. Basically, we were not having any GSM or 3G support earlier. So it was directly a jump on 5G. And so we were not, and those days, none of the handset was supporting voice over LTE calls. So in fact, Jio, I don't know how many of you remember the LYF phones, but basically Jio had to invest an entire, invest into manufacturing of phones, which was not even going to be just to fill in the gaps, so that those phones will be supporting VoLTE. Then later on, there were other manufacturers who also came forward and started doing voice over LTE. But just to put the context that see how much different types of things have to be taken up just to adapt to a new technology. Yeah.
A lot of backend work happen, voice over LTE, voice over Wi-Fi. A lot of people who are using the phone may not even know what is it and how does it work. But you being from the sensor vertical inside the Jio, you would realize how much effort was put to bring it out.
Yes, and as you told that, first thing to work on is budget and economy and finances and affordability. That is the top motto. Yes, especially for Indian scenario.
Right.
So, yeah, so I think with this, we can bring to end the track on Metaverse, brought to you by Women in Engineering Affinity Group as part of Bangalore Technology Conclave 2022. So I thank Women in Engineering Bangalore Section for giving me the opportunity to be a part of the Metaverse. So over to you. Shall I hand over to you, Mayur and Supriya, or shall I continue with the summary of the track?
Yeah, ma'am. Maybe you can continue with the summary. Then we want to facilitate our speakers. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. So I like to conclude the session with a summary of the entire track today. The track was themed as Metaverse and very apt for the list of experts, industrialists, academicians who gathered here to share their knowledge with us. The session was opened by Aishwarya, and Mayur introduced most of the speakers. Mr. Sunil David started the session with demystifying the Metaverse for us, introduced us to layers of Metaverse, Web 3.0, blockchain, and nearly all concepts relating to Metaverse, and made it so simple to understand. This was followed by Mr. Prashant Mishra, who presented a very motivating talk on extended reality for Metaverse and also explained the augmented reality, virtual reality, and mixed realities, followed by a very nice talk by Miss Vasanta Subaya on digital twins and explained their applications in industry, gaming, and manufacturing, followed by Ms. Shailaja giving us a very informative session on security threats which might be posed due to Metaverse and how to address them. This was followed by our 4 lightning talks from 4 very knowledgeable experts. First from Sudipta ji about insights on Metaverse, followed by Mr. Venkateshwaran sir on Metaverse, good, bad, or ugly. The next was thought-provoking session from Dr. Shankar on Metaverse applications in automotive domain. And last but not the least, Mr. Rohit illustrated and walked us through the various applications of Metaverse and a beautiful tour of the museum. And with this, I wind up today's technology packed session and thank our audience for their valuable time and being with us this morning, and all volunteers from the Affinity Group and IEEE Bangalore Section for their efforts to make this event successful. I just conclude with one small shloka. Sahana bhavatu, sahano bhunaktu, sahaviryam karvavahe, tejasvi navadipmastu ma vidvishavahe. Actually, the meaning is very important. It means that may we all be protected, may we all be nourished, may we all work together with great energy, and may our intellect be sharpened, and let there be no animosity amongst us. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Over to you, Mayur. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
A token of appreciation for Sudipta sir. Thank you so much for giving your time.
Thank you.
Next slide, please.
I would also thank panelist Mr. Venkateshwaram Sundareshwaram for profound discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Venkateshwaran.
I would also thank Dr. Shankar Venugopal for the profound discussion.
Thanks, Dr. Shankar.
I'm also extending my gratitude for the thanking Mr. Rohit Shrivastava for the insightful panel discussion.
Thanks a lot, Rohit ji.
Finally, I would conclude by thanking Ms. Suma Pandey for the moderating the session in profound manner. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think we have come to end of the session, and we are so much thankful to all the speakers, all the panelists, and thank you so much, Soma ma'am. So yeah,
You're welcome.
I guess we are good. Maybe if we can come on a video, we can take a pic.
Oh, sure.
Make it. Yeah. Yeah, we are good. Thank you. Thank you. Hi, Kumudri ma'am.
Kumudri, will you like to speak 2 words, or shall we wind up?
We can wind up. It's fine. Thanks so much to all of you.